third and final session of this webinar in online teaching. We are very glad to have you among us. We are ready to start. The procedure that we will follow is the following. We will start with Professor Elske from UMIT from Austria. The procedure that she will be the first one. As a speaker, we will move to our colleagues from Sweden and Germany, Dr. Mirella Vinean-Bernhoff, Mr. Johannes Pristvilla, and Professor Matthias Brandl. They are going to speak about blended learning and innovative learning tools. Then we will move to our guest speaker from Turkey, from Abdullah Gül University, Elif Benku. We will have a short break for 10 minutes in order to get interactive using Mentimeter. And then we will continue with Professor Gonzalez Andres Novoa from University La Laguna in Spain. And he will speak to us about pedagogical narrative strategies for the creation of audiovisual academic materials. Then the next speaker will come from Israel, from Technion, and will be Professor Daniel Lewin, and he's going to speak us about flipping, harnessing online lectures to achieve active learning. And we will finish and we will complete this webinar with the Dr. Nuno Escudeiro from Portugal, and that he will speak to us about the next day and how can we exploit the blended teaching when we will come back to the normal life and normal situations. So, Ricardo, I don't know, I mean, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Costas. Just a brief note to let you know that we are very glad to have you, all these attendees that are entering the YouTube channel and the Facebook channel today. It's a great honor to have you in this third session. So welcome everyone. We hope you really enjoy the previous ones and this session. So Elske, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Ricardo. Thank you, Costas. Thank you for the invitation to this very inspiring series of webinars. I want to talk today about how to design engaging online activities. So I will show you how you can use activities to activate your students. My name is Elske Ammenwerth. I'm from UMIT. This is a university in Tyrol in Austria. I'm professor of medical informatics there, but I also hold a master in educational technologies. And here at UMIT, I'm head of a fully online-based master program, and that's where my experiences come from that I want to share with you today. We all know about the challenges of online learning. One of the major challenges is how can I avoid passive participation in online courses? So what means passive? Well, the student just listens to an online talk or scrolls through the material, but no really learning, no real thinking takes place. So the question is, how can I, as a teacher, provide an online learning space for my students that is both engaging and fosters active participation? And this is important for online live teaching, so webinars. I need to activate my students there. But it's also very important during the asynchronous phases of self-study. And this is where I want to focus my presentation today. So on the question of how to activate students in their self-study phases. Well, what is the idea of these activities? Activities are engaging learning activities for active and participative asynchronous online phases. They have been designed and promoted by Dr. Gilly Salmon. She's now with the Online Education Service in the UK. And activities are basically a structured description of the required student activity. So they describe what the student has to do. I will show you the basic structure of such an activity. First, you need a good name. Then you should describe the purpose. Yeah, what will the student learn here? Why should he do this activity? Then you give him a spark. So why is the topic of relevance for the student? This is meant to motivate him. Then you give a task. So a summary, this is the overview of what the student has to do. And the most important part of the activities are these two. First, it's a required task, so it describes the tasks, the activities that should be done by the student. And it says dialogue begins. Here you describe the expected communication between the students. So one of the very specific features of an activity is that there is always a dialogue between the students as part of this learning activity. The activity then describes the role of the instructor. So what will I do to help the student? Will I give feedback or not? Or will I summarize the content? Then the activity describes the schedule, the time, the expected workload. And it concludes with the question, okay, what to do next? Yeah, which activity comes next? I will show you an example. This example is quite simplified for the sake of this presentation, but I guess it helps you to understand the most important features of an activity. This is an activity that is part of a module on project management in our online master program. So this activity is named My Project Won't Fail. And you can easily see that we try to find very interesting names for the activities to provoke curiosity in our students. The purpose of this activity is that the student should learn to understand major reasons for success and failure of an e-health project. The sparks that you give or that we give here now describes why this topic is important. It says a lot of money is spent on failed e-health projects. As an example, read this paper on a failed Austrian e-health project. So there's a link to other documents or materials. And obviously, as a project manager, you want to prevent such failures. But how? You can see that we try to give good sparks that makes the students understand why learning this topic is of importance for their professional career. The task summary says we will use a theoretical framework here to analyze success and failure of an e-health project. And then comes the first of the two most important parts, the description of the task. So the student is asked to first provide a short description of an e-health project where you, the student, were involved in, and then see here for further instructions, because obviously you need some instruction, for example, on the expected length of this description. And would you consider this project as success or failure? And please post your project and post your reflections. And then B, use this success framework on success and failure criteria. There's a link then to this framework to analyze your project. Which 3 lessons learned can you derive from this analysis for future project? And again, post your answer. So you can see that the task consists of providing an example and then analyzing the example using a framework. And then, as a second major part of this activity, there is the dialogue, a required dialogue among the students. It says, read 3 other analyses of your peers and write a short response where you compare your lessons learned with the lessons found by the others. Are there common lessons? So you can see here that we try to make the students reflect on other solutions and to go into a critical dialogue and to come up with the most important success and failure criteria. As an instructor, I will read what they discuss, I will help if needed, and at the end I will summarize the major lessons learned, so as a kind of take-home message. And as schedule and time, this activity was meant to go on for 1 week. So the schedule says you should start on Monday, you should provide your case study on Wednesday, you should start the dialogue on Friday at latest, and you should be ready with everything on Sunday. So as I said, this is a kind of shortened description of one of the activities that we are using in our master program. So activities are meant to be active and participative. So why is this the case? So they are active because they describe or they give a well-structured description of what the student should do and why. So there's a student activity described. Activities focus on student learning, not on teaching. So they don't give me an instruction what to do, they give the students the instruction what to do and what to learn. And by this, activities foster construction, discussion, and combination of knowledge by students. They are also participative because they always contain a critical dialogue between the students. So students can discuss their solutions and their ideas, and by this get new insights. Yeah. So they jointly create new knowledge by working on the activities. So how can you use activities in online teaching? Well, imagine you have an online webinar with your students where, most importantly, you give them a lot of knowledge, so it's kind of transmission of knowledge. Maybe there are also some interactive discussions in it. So what could you do with activities? Well, you could add an activity as a start, so to prepare the online webinar. Yeah, for example, you could ask the students to collect some examples, some case studies, and you could make them read and reflect on some material before they go into the webinar. You could also think about another activity at the end of the webinar to support further in-depth learning in the days after the webinar. For example, you could let your students apply theory to practice or do some further readings or work on some case studies. So this is kind of blended learning, yeah, where you mix the asynchronous activities with the synchronous webinars. Another way to use activities is to shift your lecture in a way that the activities are the core of learning and teaching. So your online course then mostly consists of activities where the students explore and construct and integrate knowledge, yeah, by working through the activities. So it's a fully active learning here, and your role as a teacher is not so much the knowledge expert anymore, but more the coach, the learning coach. If you want to do this, it may be a good idea to start with an online session, an online webinar to prepare this series of activities. You could use the starting session to introduce the topic and to give information on the organization of activities. As this is especially important if the students are not so much used to work self-independent in activities. And you could also think about providing the students with a live final online session where you can discuss their experiences, invite them to reflect and discuss them how to transfer what they learn to practice. So this is kind of flipped classroom, isn't it? Yeah, with the learning going on in the activities, and you have some live webinars to support it, to discuss and to reflect. What makes a successful activity? Well, in our experience, the title of the activity is quite important. It should be interesting and should excite curiosity. Then the purpose and the spark description are also very important because they have to provide information that make clear why this activity is worthwhile to do. If the students acknowledge that it's a worthwhile activity, they are motivated, obviously, to actively get engaged. What is also crucial is that the tasks that are described are very clearly structured, because you don't want the students to ask a lot of questions on what they should do. Yeah, so it should be very step by step, including minimum requirements, for example, number of postings expected. And the dialogue that you require should promise to inspire a meaningful discussion with the peers. Yeah, that will add to students' learning, because only then students are motivated enough to really go in a good discussion. Yeah, and not just in a superficial discussion. So what are our experiences with activities? Yeah? As I told you, we have a fully online master program at UMIT, and this master program is fully built on activities. So we just have activities. We don't have any webinars. Yeah, so learning is done based on activities, and we have quite good experiences here. So the teachers appreciate that they have a clear template to design good and engaging learning activities. The students appreciate that the design is engaging, that they have a clear structure, that they can work at their own pace because everything is asynchronous, but they can also learn with their peers. Yeah, and this peer learning is a really important part of these activities. It's not just an add-on, it's part of the learning process. A typical student's remark would be, well, this activity was quite some work. Yeah, because it's active learning, it's work. But I learned a lot, and it was very fruitful to discuss my perspective with my peers. What we also learned that new activities, so if you have designed new activities, it's a good idea to give them to a peer review by another instructor. So have another instructor read through your activities just to make sure they are very clear and engaging. To conclude, in our experiences, activities are a very good way to design engaging and clearly structured asynchronous online learning activities. For our students, they combine active learning as a self-study, but also with a peer learning as integral part of it. And activities can easily be integrated with webinars, as I showed you in the both examples. They are kind of blended learning, flipped classroom format. If you want to know more about activities, just have a look at the very informative website of Julie Salmon. There's also a book available, and there may be training courses on activities available in some countries. At least in Austria, we have these courses that we can attend as instructors and learn how to develop engaging activities. Yeah, this was my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm now looking forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Elske, very much for your presentations. I don't know if we have now is the time for questioning from the attendants and from the audience. I have a question. I would like to ask you, I mean, what kind of technology do you need to use in order to couple online lectures with these electronic activities, activities? I mean, it's very hard for me to pronounce.
Yeah, the activities. We are using as learning management system, we are using Moodle. Yeah, and all the activities are developed within Moodle, and there are the forums where the students can post. Yeah, and if we need a webinar now, we would switch then to a video conference system. Yeah, like Zoom or WebEx. Yeah.
Okay, so this is an action that probably is compatible with any technology that our colleagues they can use, no?
Yeah, for activities, if you want to have just a very basic technology, you just need a textual description of the activity, and you need a forum, so a discussion forum where the students can exchange their ideas. So this is the minimum requirement. That's not much. Yeah.
And how can you quantify the engagement of the students? I mean, how can you secure that, or how can you motivate the students to get engaged in order to have the result that you are looking for?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And the design and idea of activities is meant to provoke engaging discussions and good learning. But how can we measure it? Well, we see it both in the number of postings and also in the depth of discussion, so in the content. Yeah, and we found that if you have a good activity with good sparks and good discussion questions, then you have a high number of discussions going on, the number of postings, and a really high level discussions going on. You, as a teacher, you easily see whether there's a good learning going on or not. Yeah, if you use these activities.
Thank you. And we have the first, the first picked up a question from the audience. How do the students share the results of their research?
Yeah, so if you're doing activities in online teaching, normally you offer the students a discussion forum where they post their findings and where they discuss their findings with others. So this is the most important, or the most frequent technology that we use. So discussion forums. You could also use shared documents like Google Docs or something, so that students could share their ideas and discussion also there. So this is also possible.
The second question that we have, how do you ensure that students are not cheating when doing those activities? I mean, this is a very popular question that all of us we have.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's one of the major questions in online teaching, isn't it? Well, when you are using activities and if you have designed them well, there's no problem of cheating. Remember the example that I gave you a few minutes ago. The students were asked to provide a case study from their own background. So every student brings in an own case study, and then they are asked to analyze their own case study. So nobody else can do that. Only they can do that. Yeah. So cheating or looking at the answers of the others is not that helpful. Yeah. On the other side, activities are meant to support socio-constructivist learning. So in our opinion, when students discuss their solutions, it's good. Yeah, it's not cheating, but they learn from each other and they see their different perspective. So my answer is the activity design prevents kind of cheating. Copy-paste is not possible, and the discussions that go on are an important part of learning. So we invite the students to share their knowledge and to share their insight, because we think then best learning takes place.
The next question comes from a friend. All the attendees are the friend, but we know both of us, Nisim. What is the level of effort in terms of time and manpower to develop such an activity, and how much efforts are required for a single course?
Yeah, hi Nisim, that's a very good question. Developing an activity from scratch takes some time. Yeah, it's the same as if I had to develop a new PowerPoint slides from scratch. It just takes time. But if you have your activities, you can obviously reuse them easily in different settings, in different courses, and in different years. So our experience is that if you have well-designed activities, then the course flows naturally, and most of the work the instructor then has to do is to follow the discussions and to help. Yeah, and dependent on the number of activities that go on in 1 week, the higher is the workload for the instructor, obviously. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And as I can see from the chatting, we have contribution to various questions that you are asking, also from other presenters. So I can see an answer also to one of the questions that have previously asked from Daniel. So thank you very much, the rest of the presenters, that they contribute to the answering of the attendees' questions. The next one is, do you practice checking students' works by other students with grading? I mean, I suspect this is the peer-to-peer collaboration.
Yeah. I also guess the question is on peer review of solutions with either part of grading or not part of grading. At least in our master program, we don't have a very strong focus on this formal peer review. Yeah, what we prefer is this discussion of the solution. So you present your solutions, and then as part of the activity, you discuss it. Yeah, but we do not apply formal kind of grading by peers. Yeah, no, we don't do that in this setting.
Mm-hmm. And the other question is like, this is nice because you provide some time, for the audience to ask questions, and thank you very much. What is the assessment system?
Yeah, very good question. So now imagine you have a course on project management with, let's say, 10 activities going on over, let's say, 6 weeks. Yeah, so this is a setting, and now you need to do an assessment, a grading. What we do is that we select 1, 2, or 3 activities from the overall activities that they have to do. We say, okay, these are relevant for your final grade, yeah, because, for example, it's a larger activity or they have to develop a concept, and then these selected activities are graded. Also, in most courses, we give some gradings, some points for the active participation. So if they provide very good discussion postings and reply to their peers, then they get some additional points. So it's a kind of assessment system consisting of activity, work, and active participation in the course.
The other question is like, is all the evaluation based on online activities?
Basically, yes. So we don't have a written exam at the end because this does not make sense in this setting. But as part of several activities, they have not just to write a posting, but sometimes develop, for example, a full concept or a full project plan. So they write, let's say, 10 pages document containing a project plan. They submit it to the instructor, and this is then part of grading. So there are some written assignments integrated in these activities.
And the final question, and the rest of the questions, they will be answered by you later on and after beyond these webinars. How many students do you have, and do you apply this kind of policy? Yeah,
very good question. There is a recommended size for courses if you're using activities by Julie Salmon, and also based on our experience. I would say between 10 and 20 students is perfect. If you have more students, it's getting a bit hard to follow all the discussions and to moderate and to coach. Yeah, so the optimal size, in our opinion, is between 10 and 20 students for such a course. So with this answer, I would like to thank you, Elske, very much for your contribution and for the nice presentation. And I'm providing the floor to my colleague, Ricardo Tavio, in order to introduce the next speaker.
Okay, thank you very much, Elke, for your very interesting lecture. Then the second lecture is in charge of Dr. Mirela Vinerean Bernhoff from the Department of Mathematics from the Karlstad University in Sweden. Also, they will talk Professor Matthias Brandel and Mr. Johannes Prisvilla, both also from the Department of Mathematics from the University of Passau from Germany. They will talk about blended learning and innovative learning tools. So, Mirela, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I'm just waiting for Johannes to share the screen with our presentation. I'm not seeing it right now. Maybe now? Yes, great. Thank you. So we are going to continue the same theme as Elske started, blending learning, by trying to sharing experiences at Karlstad University, Sweden in this direction, but also to discuss a didactical framework on online teaching by emphasizing innovative digital tools. So my name is Mirela Vinerean Bernhoff, and I am assistant professor in mathematics at Karlstad University, also accomplished teacher. My research background is in applied mathematics, kinetic theory, but I'm using a lot of my teaching a lot of my time for teaching and for development of teaching. I'm not alone in this presentation. I have with me Johannes from University of Passau and also Matthias Brandel.
Hi to all. My name is Johannes Prisvilla. It's kind of a hard name to read, I guess. And I'm a former secondary school teacher, and I'm working in the project Skill.de. It's founded by the Ministry of Education in Germany, and it's aiming to improve teacher education at the University of Passau in Bavaria. In my job, the focus lies especially on improvement of teaching through the use of digital media. In the picture above, you can see Professor Brandl, who is Professor of Mathematics Didactics and also the head of the Center for Education at our university. Unfortunately, because of some Corona home office and technical issues, he cannot be present in person today, but he will be able to speak briefly via a recorded video later.
So, as promised, we are going to try to share some of our experiences in blending learning at Karlstad University. But first, let's take a short look, a quick look back in time. Higher education started in Karlstad already 1843 by introducing teacher education program. And this program is still one of the most important programs we have at our university, even if today we have more than 60 programs. For many years, the usual education at Karlstad, as probably all over in the world, was campus learning with traditional face-to-face teaching. In the same time, Karlstad University has a long tradition in distance learning too. These systems function many years in parallel, but independent of each other. Starting with 2010, a big movement began in teacher education program at our university with stopping the distinction between campus and distance education. These distinctions have been eradicated, and we introduced a new concept, the concept of blending learning. And this, as you heard before, is a successful model with a mix of asynchronous, in our case at our university, online teaching, synchronous online and campus teaching. And the didactical model we use here at Karlstad University is based on 3 cornerstones. The first one is the constructive alignment, and then we have the student-centered teaching and learning, and finally, digital resources. And what concerns the first cornerstone, we concentrate on learning objectives, examination, and teaching, and they should be linked together into a coherent line. When we speak about student-centered teaching here, we have in mind the idea that students strive to become important learning resources for each other, and we try to develop and encourage this. Concerning digital tools, we emphasize both the use and the construction of new tools adapted to our needs, to our courses. So as you can see, blended learning usually has these three components. But due to the present situation in Karlstad, as all over the world, we were forced to eradicate the Synchronous campus teaching and move everything online.
Well, the situation only required slight adjustments in Karlstad. But even though this building looks very modern and innovative, distance learning required more extensive measures at the University of Passau. We have a strong focus on face-to-face teaching, which has many advantages in any case, but it made detailed didactic considerations for adapting teaching to an online format indispensable. So our thoughts rotated, and I believe they do so in other universities all over the world, around three central so-called teaching and learning rooms, which we want to consider. The first room concerns a classical, well-known teaching-learning situation. The teacher prepares material and passes on information to the students. This room is well represented in this webinar, and we have heard a lot about useful software for teaching or student activation. The second room stresses the social component of learning. Through social interaction, learning material can be better understood and processed. Group work creates responsibilities on the part of the students, not only for their own result. Therefore, it helps students to stay engaged and motivated. Due to the stay at home alone agenda in Corona times, special challenges are to be faced here in this room. How can we foster social interaction in online teaching? And then there is a third room, about which is spoken even less, but which is sufficiently used right now, the self-study room. Learning is individual and can only be achieved by the learner and not by the teacher. Hence, the question is, how can we support students in their own learning processes? And I'm very happy that we heard a lot about this room in the first presentation of the day. Now, here comes the bad news. Even if learning is very individual, most university lectures, symbolized by this little ellipse, look like this. In classical synchronous teaching scenarios, the teacher's room needs so much space that there is simply only a little left for additional rooms to learn. We leave the students alone in their self-study rooms, and perhaps, but only perhaps, they find some additional space for interaction with others. If we adopt this course structure into online teaching, we can expect much higher dropout rates than we have them right now in our courses. And if we take a closer look to the pictures, the true problem becomes clear. Look how big the teacher is and how small the students are. An esteemed colleague, Professor Daniel Levin, who will also speak later, and I'm really looking forward to his talk, puts it in a nutshell wonderfully. He said in a recent discussion about this topic, "Stop doing that. It's not about you, it's about the students." And he went on and said, quite provocative, "How to teach is not to teach." And he's not saying we shouldn't share information at all. He's just saying that especially in synchronous meetings, it is more important to allow students to learn actively and to accompany them as a coach. And therefore, this course design does not work for online teaching, not for normal teaching, and even less for online teaching. So we came to the conclusion to have a course design which is more like this. Balanced regarding the three rooms in order to be able to use the advantages of each room optimally. And in conversations with Mirella, it turned out that in Karlstad, they are considering these three pillars of teaching for their online courses. They are even using a concept like this, where the 3 rooms flow smoothly into each other and are connected. So she will explain now how they try to reach this goal.
That's true. We actually strive after making this intersection larger and larger because we believe that it will give better results for our students. What concerns the first room, the teacher's room, this room usually is based on providing lectures, seminars, laboratories, recommended tasks, as well as giving feedback, constructing assignments and projects, quizzes, exams. And this is not easy in the usual face-to-face teaching, and it gets even more challenging, as all of us know right now in the online teaching. So, what we are doing in Karlstad, what we have and many other people tried, we splitted this room in asynchronous teaching and synchronous teaching. And the first room relates to the fact that the teacher provides materials for reading and lectures for viewing, quizzes and assignments for completing. And what we try to do, what we are doing here in Karlstad, after every such asynchronous moment, we introduce a real-time synchronous moment for discussions, for other type of activities. There are a lot of pedagogical challenges concerning the arrangement of these 2 rooms. But one of the most important, I think, is how to make good recordings. And of course, the challenge can be a technical one, but I think we should focus on the pedagogical challenges. And here I will share some of my experiences, because I believe that to be able to make good recordings is to find the right length in your recordings. And in my experience, 20-30 minutes with focus on a topic, it will give a good result. And why that? Because you want the student to be there all the time, to be engaged, to be focused, and also you want to help the students later on when it will go back and look through all these recordings and find easy what he or she is interested in. Also, as said of other speakers in these webinars, I want to take the opportunity to ask you go back on the homepage and look to all the good advices that we got during the first 2 webinar days. So what one can do to improve is to combine different methods in the presentation to keep the audience interested and engaged. In my case, teaching mathematics, this means that I combine the PowerPoint presentation with visualizations, with demo calculations and proofs, but also I try to put questions to my students and ask them pause the recording, go and reflect, and come back and check with my opinion. Or even better, I finalize my recordings, putting questions, asking them to use the time until the real-time meeting to reflect, and then when we meet in Synchronous to discuss together. What concerns synchronous teaching, here our advice is to use common e-meeting platforms and common learning management systems. And why that? Because in this way you provide stability and a good organization for both teachers and students. And using a common system, then the university has possibility to give local technical support, and this is of course valuable for all of us. What we have in Karlstad University is also our own YouTube channel, and we call it CoPlay. And in this channel, every student and every teacher has an account. We can load there our recordings, our materials, and then we can share with the intended public, or also it is easy to find all these materials when we need. An essential dimension of the teaching room is the emotional support based on good communication. And here we got very nice presentations by Professor Ron Blunder with wonderful ideas. I got very inspired. And also Elif Bengu from Turkey and Lauren Vandermeer from Spain. Thank you very much for your very nice presentations. So go back and look to that too. In my case, what I do, I try to give individual feedback, both synchronously and asynchronously to my students. And why that? Because they need this one-to-one contact. They need to have the chance to be vulnerable. They need to feel, have moments when they should have the chance to feel completely safe, put any type of question. And also, I try to have control on students' online behavior using tools from learning management system and have personal contact when needed. We also have in Karlstad a student counselor that I can go to in case this personal contact is needed. And last but not least, I think it's very important to schedule all moments in the course, giving timelines to help the students organize their time. And I realized during years that this is more difficult for the distance students and for campus students. They need more help in programming their study time. As Johannes mentioned before, there are many benefits for students concerning this peer teaching room. And I will try to concentrate on some things that we do in my university. In asynchronous teaching room, we introduce new examinations form and also try to introduce tasks to work on in groups between recorded lectures. This is something that is natural in the campus, usual campus face-to-face teaching. But in the distance teaching, when the students are isolated home, you need to help them get in contact. You need to organize a little bit this group so they start to work together. When we think to synchronous teaching, we emphasize the group work in breakout rooms, also this very much discussed in this webinar, followed by a presentation of the solution and discussions of the opinions with the whole group. And also we use repeated quizzes with discussion and theory input in between. I will try to show you shortly an example of such a project that I have in one of the calculus courses. This is a project concerning visualization, which is a very important issue in mathematics. The students work together in groups. They write a report. The teacher corrects the report, and all students passing stage 2, they go in stage 3 with this individual oral examination. Here we have peer examination, which means that the teacher is just overviewing the process. Every student has to participate in discussion, both by answering and putting questions. And then we have, we can move to the third room. And this is the room of self-studies, and there are many benefits concerning with the self-study room. And we believe that the teacher should get more involved in development of this room, not just by giving recommended tasks and feedback. So how can we, as teachers, facilitate and improve learning in this room? Our concept to support this room consists in 3 building blocks. The first one is feedback, both for students and teachers. And we have been introducing at Karlstad an app for self-evaluation that I'm going to speak about shortly soon. The second block is about exercises. And these are individually generated for the students from the feedback we get in block 1. For this, we use computer-aided assessment systems, and in Karlstad we use Möbus, but there are other strategies like, for example, Stack. And the third block, this block is about organization of learning content. In our university, we try right now to use a new digital learning tool called Interactive Mathematical Maps, developed at Passau University, and we are going to speak about this also in a very short time. So first, our app, this self-evaluation app. The students download via learning management system in their mobiles or other devices they have a special constructed app which contains a matrix that stores all recommended tasks for every lecture in the course. And they are instructed to use this app to update continuously the status of their work. And then twice a week, they are supposed to send anonymously via learning management systems their updated matrix. The system uses this information and produce bi-weekly statistics at the group level. And these we teachers use to improve teaching and scaffolding. And here you can see an example of a bi-weekly statistics. If you wonder what colors are meaning, the gray are number of students that haven't been working with a specific task at all. Then red is for the students that tried but haven't managed. Yellow, it's for the number of students that have tried, maybe didn't manage first, but with the help of some teacher or some other colleague managed to solve it and now have full control. And then the green are students that manage quickly by themselves. We look of the numbers together and we realize what tasks are problematic tasks. And those tasks we go in and discuss more closely and look to the underlying problems. And using the input from these statistics, we actually go further and construct new tasks for the students by using these CAA systems. As I said before, in Custard we use Melbus. By using these systems, students can work with different types of tasks, adapted to their own needs, and get also formative feedback from us. And now I'm going to give the word to Professor Matthias Brander from Passau University, and he's going to introduce us a new didactical tool that we plan actually in Custard to use in our courses. So we are in this planning process right now.
Hello, I'm happy to be with you via this small video clip, as I'm not able to be in a live format with you in this webinar. But I'd like to say some words about defragmentation and interconnectedness in mathematics education, as I see it as a traditional and central requirement for learning mathematics. Mathematical knowledge and skills should not be taught and learned separately from each other, meaningless and unrelatedly, but in their interrelation and connected. So we see mathematics as an emerging science, what it is. And Felix Klein, one of the famous advocates of this type of learning, says this kind of learning is an intuitive and genetic kind of learning. So the mathematical map, which is a didactical tool in a digital format, is intended to offer the student an optimal solution for establishing successful learning processes by integrating the historical origin of mathematical concepts as well as interdependencies between them. It combines these two characteristics in one three-dimensional representation, a kind of graph or tree. One dimension represents time, while the other two represent inner mathematical dependencies. On this slide, you see an interactive mathematical map for geometry as an example, and the nodes stand for mathematical concepts or theorems for which files, videos, and tasks can be uploaded. The lines symbolize the historical development steps between them. Those nodes.
Thank you, Professor Brandl. To make the above-mentioned principles a little bit more clear, we added two more functionalities. First, is our presentation? Okay, now it is back, that's good. First, we added the functionality horizontal cut. On this functionality, all nodes, all contents are projected in one level. And the Euclidean distance is a measure for similarity of contents and concepts. That means if nodes are really close together, the concepts used in these nodes are very similar. And if they are very far apart from each other, they are more different. Here you can see some clusters of very similar contents. The cluster above, for example, deals with different kinds of calculation of the volumes. The lower ones deals with the important topic of trigonometry. Second, we have the functionality vertical cut. Vertical cuts consider the principle of emerging science. Here, the user can choose a node, for example, the well-known Riemann integral, and the system will give you a directed graph where you can see all the development steps which led to a content. Additionally, we have added a functionality that allows you to download with one click all the contents that have led to this concept in chronological order to facilitate a deeper understanding of mathematical concepts. Now we're done. Thank you very much for listening, and we have some time for questions, I guess.
Thank you. We don't hear you, Ricardo. Yeah.
Sorry for that. The first of the questions, it's you can read it. Is the backbone infrastructure for small teaching groups must be on the high-end side?
I'm not sure I really get this question.
Okay, then we can move forward and let's see if, what he wants to mean.
Maybe you can reformulate or put one extra question for this to be able to answer.
Okay, we'll follow this user of Cloak & Galaxy to see if he can explain what he wants to say. People is asking, for example, how do you cope with different approaches or different teachers for same students? And how many courses does one student study during the semester?
Yes, so if I should answer for Karlstad University, then we have the year divided in 4. This means that we have on a semester 2 periods, and in each period, students read 2 courses. We try to work in team. So we had sometimes on this process. So in teacher education, for example, we work from 2010 in this way with blended learning, and we try to not to have different approaches. Of course, we are free to use our own ideas, but we try to make some kind of model and stick to it, because we want students to recognize the style, and we want them to feel safe and also stable. So we don't choose too much. We are not very free as teachers. We speak together. We try to find a common model, and then try to do our best in that direction.
Thank you. Also, Daniel Levin is saying thank you for the great presentation, and asking how do you handle imbalances between students in the stage 3 oral exams?
I'm sure it's about the GeoGebra visualization project, the question. So they work together, and they have a report that we already have been checking. So we know that it's a good report. They can go to stage 3. Now, when they come to stage 3, for us is more to be sure that everybody in the team worked, and then we can, as teachers, we are several teachers going in the room, and we can listen, and we can see which students have been really working. Some of them are not really, haven't been working. We realize that, and the colleagues realize that, because they put questions, and that student. And one more thing, they don't know which colleagues they will meet. So they find out 1-2 minutes before. These are the colleagues you are going to meet in this group, and that these colleagues are going to put questions. And about the difference is like this: if some student is not really answering, then we go and maybe the student is not passing or the grade is less.
Okay, thank you. Another question. What kind of different methods do you recommend us to use in asynchronous teaching? Now I'm only using Google Meet videos with PowerPoint presentation.
So I'm using our very nice system at Custard University, which is CoPlay, but I used before Camtasia. There are other programs also too where you can even in Zoom do your own recording. I don't think it's so important what kind of technique you use when you do your recordings. I think it's more important how you do your recordings in the way pedagogically. Don't use the time just going through something, because the students will get bored. They can do it by themselves. They will stop your video and just read. You don't want that. You want them to be with you in the discussion. So this is not an easy balance, and I'm still struggling with that.
In my opinion, the easiest software to use, and also probably the best, but a little bit expensive, is Camtasia. If you need a free one, you can use OBS Studio. It's not that easy to use, but yeah, if you have some time to work in, then it's fine.
Okay. Another question. Can you tell more about how do you support group work in a synchronous setting, and how do students organize themselves?
So in asynchronous setting, we introduce, as I said, these group projects, but also tasks in between recorded lectures. So what concerns the group project, I already spoke a little bit about the GeoGebra project, but we also have, you can also have actually, and this idea I got from some dear colleagues of us in Copenhagen, Eva and Olga. They work with projects during the whole semester in between subjects. So the students should use knowledge from different subjects to work in team and do something about it. And in Denmark, the universities in Denmark are really good in this. Also, I think it's important to have these tasks in between lectures to start these groups of working together.
Mm-hmm. Okay, another question. I think we can move to the next lecture after this. So this would be the last one. Blended course is a huge work. Do you accept the same teacher's workloads calculation for face-to-face learning and blended learning?
I don't know if I get this question right, but for example, I have the same course in calculus for engineers, which is face-to-face, and for teacher education, which is distance blending learning. And I cannot do it in the same way. I'm the same teacher, I have the same material, it's not working. I have to adapt to the online style, because in the class, I can have the interaction, I can put questions, I can do many things. In online, I'm by myself, so it's not the same.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much to
you.
Mirela,
Thank you for
Johannes.
this nice organization.
Thank you very much. And Professor Matthias Brandl, for say hello to him. At least we are very glad that he could send the video. Yeah. And so Costas, I think we can move forward to the third lecture.
Yes, thank you very much, Mirela, Johannes, and Professor Brandl. I'm very glad that we welcome for one more time Professor Elif Benkou from Abdullah Gül University. She's going to speak to us about assessment in remote and online teaching. Elif, the floor is yours.
Okay, let me share my screen then. Oh, can you just a second. I think I need to make it full screen, then we will be good. Can you see it right now? No, I cannot see you though. Kostas, will you be able to tell me if you can see? I made a full screen.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, great, because I cannot see the comments, so I'm sorry. Hi, everybody. We met, if you were in that first webinar, I was there also, which I had a really good time, and I hope I've managed to give you something out of it. And today I'll be talking about the assessment and how we need to change and adapt our assessment for this new thing that we are experiencing. I am with Abdullah Gül University. It's a public university in Turkey. I'm a faculty member and also coordinator for the Center for the Enhancement of Learning and Teaching. So we have limited time, so let's move on. This will be a really kind of like a compact one, so hope you will able to follow. So again, let's remember that online and distance learning has been around for a long time. I can easily say that maybe more than 50 years. I've started to work on it in 1999, so yeah, I think we can say more than 50 years. On the other hand, it was always an option. But now with the COVID-19, as you know, many of us need to move to this field against our will, and we are still learning. If we are not in this COVID-19 situation, my suggestions on assessment might be different, but for now, especially for this particular time, I recommend using alternative methods to timed proctored exam wherever possible. But I will also provide you kind of like suggestion on how can you do your proctored exams, because I know that some of you have to do it in a way. So I would like to, in fact, invite you to, at this time, to think outside of the box. And I hope my suggestions will help you in any way. So first, I would like to kind of like, again, touch base on what we heard in the previous presenters, the previous days, because I think they're all connected to assessment. So they've emphasized on the importance of building rapport and empathy, and then they've emphasized to be clear on our expectations to our students, which will help us also with the assessment. And also the presenters, Dr. Garcia Alonso and Dr. Gonzalez, provided us a really kind of like a, they are really nice experience, in-class experience of continuous assessment. So if you have not watched it, if you couldn't attend the webinar on Monday, please watch it and then hear their experience. It was a really good one. So then after that, and after, you know, I've been also watching all these webinars, I've sat down and I thought about it. I was like, how should I design this presentation? So, you know, how should I reframe my presentation so that I will give you something that you can take on and maybe you can even come back later and look at. And then I decided to prepare you a handout that you can go back when they need to and, you know, kind of like also assess your especially when you're deciding your assessment method. So that said, I will not go into detail about the definition of the measurement, assessment, and evaluation. We don't have time on that. But if this will be like a handbook, then I thought that would be nice to give you the differences. What I want you to keep in mind today is, please remember, we assess learning, and then we evaluate the results in terms of some set of criteria. So from today, this is all like, this is the first thing that I want you to remember. We assess learning and then we evaluate the results in terms of some set of criteria. So then that said, in fact, when we look at assessment, we also categorize the assessment too. So we have assessment of learning, assessment as learning, and assessment for learning. Again, I will not go into much details about that, but please know that assessment of learning usually done before, then that help us to design our content, and we do assessment as learning throughout our course, and then we use the data to provide timely feedback for our students, and also it's beneficial for our students' self-assessment. And then we have assessment for learning, and then this data help us to see if our students reach to our learning goals and standards, which is so important with our assessment decision too, and our methods, in fact. So before I continue with this PowerPoint slide, there's one thing I want you to do for now from our listeners. Please think about a course right now that you're supposed to choose an assessment method for. And I also want you to, if you have a pen and pencil, if you have a pen and paper, please write it down. Please write it down so then you will see it. You'll see that course, because there's an exercise that I want you to do for the next couple of minutes. So when you're considering an alternative assessments, your learning goals are an excellent place to start. So I hope you wrote that course name on that piece of paper. And so, of course, this, in fact, particular sentence takes us to backward design, which, again, sadly, I don't have time to go in depth on that. But on the other hand, there are 3 questions that I want you to ask to that course that you have, that you need to design an assessment. The first question: what do you hope students will be able to do by the end of your course? Please ask that question to your course, of course, to yourself. Here's the second question: in what ways can they demonstrate what they know? And the third question I want you to ask is, what are you aiming to evaluate with the assessment? And with that, so I hope you kind of like had some couple seconds to think about those answers. I would like to do another exercise with you. So the same course that you wrote on that paper, I want to ask again, have you evaluated all the learning outcomes with assessments so far? And what do I mean with that? So as you know, maybe some of you have just, by the way, I'm sure some of you maybe just started your new semester, because I know some universities just started their new semester. Maybe some of you have only a week to end it. We have in my institution 3 weeks to end the semester. Some of our instructors already know what kind of assessment they will end their course. A couple of them, they don't know yet. So again, ask yourself if you've already evaluated the learning outcomes that you have written couple weeks ago. If you already, met these learning outcomes, then I'm taking that some of you might say yes. Some of you might say, yes, I've already evaluated, I met my learning outcomes. Then I said, great. Then, don't think about the final assessment. You don't maybe even need to listen to this presentation anymore. No, I'm just kidding. But, just cancel the final assessment. Consider reweighing your grades for the term, and you're good to go. But then you might say, you know what, Elif? No, I still need to do that final assessment, or, throughout the semester, because my semester just started, I still need to work on those assessment methods. Then I will ask you, can you redesign your assessment to meet your learning outcomes in an alternate format? In another way, I'm asking you, if you have to do a proctored exam, I kind of like in this presentation also want to change your mind. So we'll see how good am I going to be. You might say, yes, I can look for an alternative format. I don't need to do proctored exam. Then I will say, great, here, consider alternative assessment methods that I, found out for you. So if you go to this, in fact, website, it's clickable. You will have these links when you have the presentation. You will see more in-depth information about these alternatives to proctored exams. I think they're a great way to in various ways. You will also find all these links in the references also. And then I may ask you to be even more creative. And by the way, I know most of you are asking about those open book take-home assessments. And here in this link, I have the information. They are all in Google documents, open for everyone. You're welcome to use it, you know, the way you see it fit. I can even ask you to be more creative. And I said, you know, when you give these things as an assignment, these methods as an assessment or assignment to your students, I may even ask them to create videos, ask them, you know, through videos to submit these homeworks. They can give you a report, but they can also create videos, which we ask one of our course, in fact. And then, you know, I even provide you an information about how you can do that, which you can look at it, but students love it. Students just love creating videos. And I think this is also another soft skill that you can evaluate, communication. Then, you know, I may even say, great, for these, if you want to go with 10 alternative methods, then how about using rubrics to evaluate your student performances? Sadly, again, I will not have time to talk about rubrics today, but let me tell you, again, these are important, I will say, tools to kind of like, again, look at the how your coursework, in fact, more than I can say, your expectations. I think rubrics are a great way, a tool to message your expectations to your students. So then if you click on here, this is a rubric that we designed for discussion board. Again, something that you can share with your students. And on the links, again, references, I have a really nice book that you can check, and the book is online. But then again, yes, you can do rubrics, you can do video presentations. It's just, you know, be creative, be open, because this is the time this is the kind of time that we have to be creative. We have to think outside of the box. Lower time pressure. If you like to do exams, yes, go ahead, do exams, but, you know, don't put time limits on your online activities, or time limits that will fit everybody. And also lower due date pressure. If you like to, yes, lower the grades, but still, you know, make them sure that they're okay. No matter what, the most important thing is that they will submit their homeworks. Lower grade anxiety. This is something that we've done with my institution, where we change our grade policy. Now, at the end of the term, students ask for their grades, or they can have pass, fail, or satisfactory, unsatisfactory grade. If you need to know more information about that, I can kindly give you that. And also lower communication anxiety. Know that you are here for them. You are welcome to talk to you whenever they can, because yeah, they may have some things that, you know, they may not be able to say it in when they are with other people. Then make sure that they will able to share it with you. So if we continue, then great, you want to go with the alternative formats, and I provided you links, but then you may say, you know what, Elif, no, I'm sorry, I cannot. I have to keep my proctored exams. On the other hand, we really don't suggest you to use proctored exams, because we consider them high-stake exams. So they increase students' stress level, anxiety. So instead, we, like those alternatives, we suggest you to use lower stake exams. But I completely understand if you want to use the proctored exams, then I will say, are you sure it's going to be hard? Like, this is your last chance to change your mind. But then again, I'm sure you have your own reasons, and you might say, yes, I'm sure. Then I'll say, okay, then let me see what I can do for you. So since you'll be digitizing your exam, I compiled information for you on how to do proctored exams that will be beneficial for you and for your students. Hopefully, you know, you will create safe environment for your students by following these suggestions. And then I know there are many discussions about academic dishonesty, and I'm part of this pod network, and they've been discussing about it, trust me, for the last month. And this is what they came up with. You can read this in your own time, but in short, which I can also highlight it, in fact, in short, first of all, the research on academic integrity has shown similar rates of dishonesty between in-person and online learning environments. And also, students are not out there cheating any more than they usually do. So if they want to cheat, trust me, they will cheat it no matter what. I think as instructors, what we have to do is we have to create them environments where, which I've been emphasizing on, where they will feel safe with no stress, no pressure, so then they will not attempt to cheat. And there's this quote that I would like to share with Jeff Rines from Temple University. If your primary professional concern in the present crisis is about catching cheaters, you don't work in education, you work in surveillance. Perhaps now more than ever, our students need us to treat them like human beings, not suspects. Yes, it might be harsh for some people, this comment, but really, let's create pedagogy, we can use our pedagogy to create conditions where no student receive unfair advantages over others. As I said, these are not normal times. Also, you might say, you know what, Edith? Nope, I'm still going with proctoring exam. I said, okay. Please, when you're using third parties for proctoring, be careful. Read what you are signing up for. This is a company called Proctorio, and if you read it carefully, you are basically giving them your Chrome browser, and also you're basically letting them change your privacy settings. So please read the, those small writings when you are saying yes to anything. And here is great references that you can go and check about proctored exam, especially the first one. I know it's on Google Drive. I know she's constantly updating, and you will see many people when you go there, you'll see many people reading this document. I think they're doing a great job, and I know that they are providing also a lot of updates. If you want to reach to current research, then this is what you need to check for sure. Code of conduct, which is, I know, a huge topic. A lot of people are asking for it. Let me close this. It's kind of like bothering. So again, practices for promoting academic honesty in online exam. It's a great document to go and check what they're saying about code of conduct. She provided, again, a great document on like how to establish a culture of honesty, considering alternative ways to design exams. So great reference to look at. Also the second one. The second one, I'm kind of like also working on it. You will see my comments, or if I hear or see some interesting comment from someone, I will put it in this document. Again, it's all in Google Drive. I have to ask again, do you really need this exam? I mean, proctored exam, do you really need this? And if you're still saying yes, and here, more things for you to consider and looked at. Yes, I've been reading those for the last 2 months, so good luck with it, but I'm always here to answer your questions if you have any. But maybe after all these, you might say, you know what, Elif, let me think about it. You know, maybe I will not have a proctored exam. Yes, I will have an exam, but I will not have a proctored exam. Then I will say, great, let's go back to those alternative assessment methods that I compiled for you. And also as a bonus, I will give you free tech tools that I also compiled for you. Again, this is a Google document form I compiled for my university. And here I would like to open it to show you how it looks like. I know that in this webinar, a lot of people have been asking free tools. These tools are all free, but please check just accuracy in case. we can start with, it's a little bit slow, sorry. So we can start with video creation tools. We can look at video sharing tools. And these are, I think, great tools also for your students. Like even this Wheel Decides student calling tools, which is so interesting. It's free and people been using. There are some tools that I've been using in my classes, which I'm really happy. There are project tools. If you're doing like group work, teamwork for your students, they can also use it. The Mural, Padlet, Miro, GitHub, there are tons out there. But what I try to put here is the ones that I've tried, that I'm experienced and free, which is so important for me too. And then engaging tools that can be used for formative assessments. Again, they're all here. I've used Socrative. I use, where is that? Quizlet, Edpuzzle, I'm sorry. I use Edpuzzle, it's great. You can add YouTube videos, but also in between the YouTube videos, you can ask questions. But an ExamNet is free until 2020. Some of my instructors will be using ExamNet as a proctored exam. But most importantly, if you're really worried about security and privacy, then I will say go with your LMS. I'm using Canvas for asynchronous sessions. We are using our Canvas tool for discussion forums and assignment tabs because we find it more, in a way, safe. Also here, you will find some other, places you can go. I know there are a lot of people asking us about math. So I put some tools there that you can look at and other things. So if you have any tools that you've been using that is free, I would love to add it here. So again, before I wrap up, I finished up. I would like to say, as you know, always keep in mind, there was no situation like this before. So we are all new in that way. We've been sharing, at least I've been sharing with my colleagues, and also I've been reading references from the online education that was conducted in normal time. Hopefully, well, I should say hopefully, but in a way, hopefully, because hopefully it will help us to see some research that that kind of like talked about these past couple of weeks of months, and then hopefully we will have more idea to see which approaches are best suited to specific examination systems, to specific institutions, even to specific countries and to specific students. We don't know yet. So that said, please hang in tight there. Hopefully, we will see the light together with our students, with their parents, and with our colleagues. So here are the references. You are welcome to look at those in your own time. This is mostly webinars and websites. This is mostly research studies. I'll try to add more even on those Google Forms that I shared with you, Google Docs. And I would like to say really, thank you to Dr. Petridis and Mr. Ricardo. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be being part of it, and also all these wonderful presenters. When life brings big winds of change that almost blow you over, close your eyes, hang on tight, and believe. You are not alone there. We are all in this together. So thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much, Elif. Thank you for this nice presentation. Now I think it's the time for questions, even however you heard me, because I think that I'm doing everything during an exam in order my students do not fool me, but I know that they fool me. Yeah. But I'm feeling more relaxed because now I can feel they can do whatever they want, then exactly. It's up to them.
Even large classes, we suggest open book exams.
There are a lot of requests in order to share the link of your of the tool of this evaluation document from your university with the audience. Please, when you come on the backstage, please send an email to them or like a message with the link that they can download this kind of document. We have the first question from a colleague. How can we reach the document you compiled for us? I mean,
Well, first of all, I will send it to Kostas, but I can also in fact, I can share my email address. I don't know which way is the good. Should I share it through YouTube, or should I send it to you, Kostas, and then you will share with the
I will say send us, the link, and we will place it on the website, and then we will share with the rest of the attendees all the presentations, so the links, they can be found also through your presentation. But in order to be faster, just write a message on the private, on the comments, on the chatting, and the people, they will reach it directly. So the next question is like, had the change of evaluation strategy give possible results from the point of view of successful graduates?
Had the change of evaluation give positive results from the point of view of successful graduates? Do you want to say if the strategy, like if the change of strategies will also change the way the online education takes place? I try to understand what she means.
Let's start with your perception. I mean, if you don't understand the question, just provide.
What I can say is, in fact, I'm not seeing the online education like us, transferring to online education is not a bad thing, because I think other presenters also mentioned that I think online education help us to be student-centered. I think we have to be like that anyway, which, as you know, Kostas, our institution has been working on that, being learning-centered. And I think online education kind of like help us to be a learner-centered, and also to design our assessments, to design our course syllabi, and also the interaction, and also course content to be a student-led. So in that sense, the kind of things that we've been talking about for the last 3 days can be easily applicable to face-to-face learning too. I'm kind of like seeing them both together, hand in hand, in fact.
Excellent. I think at this point, we're receiving a lot of nice comments for you, Elif. I hope that you will share later on, and you will answer to all these fans that you have generated through your presentation. And I think all of them, all the presenters, they have now their fan club. Let's see. We have an elaboration from the person from the colleague that has asked the question.
You do not just proctoring exams that give results. Oh, you do not just. Well, yeah, I'm really against, in that sense, proctoring exams, because I don't think they do work. Because if a student wants to cheat, they will cheat. But I think there are other ways that we can create these environments. By the way, on my presentation, I also shared with you links on how to ask, like how to design a question so that I even wrote it here, like we can encourage our students' thinking and our students' reasoning. I think the first presenter, Dr. Elske, also mentioned that too. The way we approach to our students, the way we ask questions are really important. Then we will not need those proctoring exams.
I'm suspecting that I have a great problem by how do I ask my students the questions, because they never answer me. So
no,
I have a serious, I'm in a serious trouble.
In fact, I read one article on that. In fact, I think Kostas, you sent to me. It was before that the conference that we met in Denmark. It was about how to be a person to ask good questions. I remember. So. Yeah.
Probably in theory, but I think I lacked in practice. Anyhow, let's go to the next colleague. I think that she comes from Ukraine. Elif, what do you think about open book exam with student-authored questions? Does it deserve a place in the course?
I definitely.
It's a good question.
And also in the beginning, I think we should also explain or instruct our students how to ask questions, because that will also come back to them as another good soft skill too. Because right now, even now, I'm sometimes finding myself to have trouble with asking good questions. So let's give that soft skill to our students while they are in our classes. And why not do that through our courses? Definitely. Yes, they deserve a place.
So, Ricardo, thank you very much, Elif. I think that, Ricardo, now we should do the break. Let's say for 10, 12 minutes, let's say a quarter, but this break is not going to be without an action. I mean, I will share, we should do this. I will share my screen so we can log into the menti.com. There are going to be this now, I think boring questions, but very essential for us in order to identify somehow the profile of the people that they follow this kind of webinars. So please go to menti.com. I have already sent the number. I will send it again, 7653 69. I will share my screen, and your break will be shared with me until we will give some time for the next speaker. Will be from University of La Laguna, Professor Andres Gonzalez Novoa, and he's going to speak about pedagogical narrative strategies for the creation of audio-visual academic materials. So let's share my screen. And let's go to
you can vote through menti.com using the code that you're going to see in the upper side of the screen.
So the first question, yes, they have already started.
The code is 765369. I'm going to place it in the YouTube and the Facebook channel. As Costa said, this information is very useful for us in order to have your preferences and your profiles for future sessions and webinars.
Let's give some time, because at the beginning I have received, regarding the previous Mentimeter, that I was a little bit fast for the first one, in order to give more time for the people to log into the menti.com and use this code. So I will wait a little bit for the first one in order to warm up and go on. I think, Rodrigo, regarding the target group, based on the answers that I'm receiving, the majority of the people that they attend us are colleagues. They are like academics, teachers.
Yes, they look like the most number of profiles are academics. Very similar to what we received on the previous sessions.
Mm-hmm. And also, just to remind to the participants that it's very important also to participate on the evaluation after the end of the webinar. This is also essential in order to send you a certificate. I mean, at least you should do the evaluation form And for the people that they have requested a certificate for their attendance, please send an email to me, and we have already prepared the template of the certificates. We just have to copy your name and the affiliation and your affiliation. So just send an email to c.petridis@gmail.com. My email also is it can be found through the website of the event, and me and Ricardo, we will prepare your certificate and we will send it to you. But at least we request from you to do the assessment. The assessment is so important for us. It's the only thing that we are requesting from you in order to be able and to continue similar initiatives and become better.
Yes, and improve this webinar with your insights. So as Petridis said, you have the link to this evaluation form in the webinar website, but also we will share it through the YouTube channel and the Facebook channel at the end of the session.
Okay, I think I will go to the next. Now I will move a little bit faster. Where is your university based? Let's see, there's a big competition, I think, between Greece and Portugal. Just to remind to my Portuguese friend that in 2004, we beat them in Portugal.
They have Spain also there.
Yeah, I think that we're losing the game.
Ukraine as well.
Yeah, Ukraine is very active, actually. Ukraine, Armenia, and Georgia and Uzbekistan, we have a lot of registration. We had a lot of registration from this part of the world, and we would like to thank a lot the national agencies of these countries that they have helped us a lot in order to disseminate this 3 series of webinar within their institutions.
Also, I've seen today that we have attendees from Africa, from Tanzania.
Oh yeah, I mean, we had thanks, to the contribution of Dirk Menrode who was one of our speakers during the first day. He has disseminated a lot these webinars in Tanzania, Uganda, and in Ethiopia.
Great news to have people from Africa. Nigeria as well.
I mean, I think that from all over the world.
Yeah.
Have partners.
In the previous sessions, we can confirm that we have attendees from the 5 continents.
So with which university are you affiliated? Here you can write down your university. In the previous transparency, we would like to write down the country that your university locates. HMU, very good. Good. Tirana.
Have people from the Canary Islands as well, I can see.
University of West Attica has a very strong participation until now. I thought from Greece it was the Aristotle University in Thessaloniki.
Mm-hmm.
I will teach my friend who's Nuno. I cannot see IPP among the participants.
Nuno is laughing.
He's laughing, of course. He has no other alternative. He should laugh.
I will give more time for the IPP.
Many people from University of La Laguna.
La Laguna, yes. So let's wait a bit. I will move very shortly to the next one. So what do you expect from this webinar? It's something that probably you have replied in the previous one, but probably we have also newcomers to this session. So we would like to check out. You have the alternative to answer as many, you can pick up as many options you wish. It seems to each one of these voting that we saturate to a specific number from the beginning. And I will say here, this saturation number is like for today around 110 to 120 people.
Yeah, the number of attendees today is being around 250.
Yeah, we have another 50 from around 50 from the Facebook. Now they are 35. So we are, close to 300. We are very satisfied with the participation. And we would like to thank each one of the attendees along the 3 webinars for their support and participation and for asking all these nice questions. I mean, we are very much surprised from the volume of the questions that we have as an audience. Let's move to the other one, since I have reached the number that I suspect that the people will answer. When teaching online, I feel, so we can start. You can have more options than one. I mean, you can pick up everything. I'm struggling. But I think that from all these from all these talks that we have followed, Ricardo, the good things they have arisen from this situation, that and the most important is like everything has become student oriented, student centered. All our lectures, because we should involve them through our online teaching. It's very hard, but the students now are the point of the attention, and this should also be the reality when we will come back to the face-to-face lecturing, or if we use these combined teaching strategies like blended teaching using online and offline tools.
Of course, yeah.
So very slowly we're reaching this 110, 120 people to answer. So let's move to the next one. Is this the first webinar on online teaching you attend? If you have, of course, if you have attended our previous webinars, probably you should answer no. Even though that 3 webinars that we have planned together with the speakers, and not only with the speakers, behind these webinars, probably it's me and Ricardo that we appear on the screen, but it was a group of people, I think 35 people at the beginning, that we plan all together this webinar. It's not only the speakers, it's not only me and Ricardo, but there are other people that they have contributed to this, to the design of this webinar, to the initial discussions that we had, and we should thank all of them one by one.
Yes, both the academics who have helped us with their wonderful lectures, and also the technical people of all the supporting
Of course.
organizations, and also national agencies from all over Europe and other places from the world, education national agencies. We have to admit that we are quite happy with the results of these webinars. Let's see what is the end for our coming lecturers.
The most important, I think, Ricardo, is like also, the attendance, to stay happy. And the only way to learn this is through the evaluation of the webinar. So that's why we're going to feel more motivated when we will receive your evaluation. Today we have more experts than the last times.
Okay, this question regarding the experience, we can see that there are a lot of people beginning with the online teaching, and a lot of people also that has never teach online before the pandemic. Some few experts as well.
Yeah, a lot of experts this time. I think that this kind of the number of the people that they have answered that they are experts. The last two times they were around 5 to 6. Now they are doubled. I hope that the majority of them, they are coming as an experts because they followed our webinars. I'm kidding. This is impossible.
They have become experts after the webinars.
No way, man. This takes a year. Yes.
Of course. Time to learn.
So let's move to the next one. Name some tools, platforms you have worked with. We had a lot of nice ideas from our lecturers, our presenters, but also we had a lot of input from your side along the previous Mentimeter voting that you have used. So please, the floor is yours now. Also, we have seen that some universities also, they have some tools that they are using, even, forms that they are using. Probably it's like a product of a university, so you can also write down this.
Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Blackboard, Moodle, Skype, lots of tools. But as many lecturers have said during the webinars, and today I think Elif remind us, and also Mirela Vinerean, that the pedagogy is the key factor for the success use of all of these tools. Even, of course, the technology, of course, the tools have made more easy than ever to communicate, but some other of the topics that we have work in the webinar are equally, at least, important.
So how do you find online teaching? Let's accelerate a little bit in order to continue our webinar in a few moments. Three more. I think that we have three more very excited lectures to complete our webinar from three excellent scientists and colleagues from Spain, Israel, and Portugal. So I hope that our audience still be with us. We are confident that we will be with us, actually, and be motivated to ask more questions to our presenters.
Yes, we have 3 wonderful lectures to end the 3rd session, and we hope you enjoy them.
So we are reaching these 120 people. So let me move to the next question. What do you struggle the most with? I mean, probably you can exploit your experience through these webinars and some things that you used. Some of the things that struggled you in the past, probably after this webinar, is not anymore an issue. You have an idea, you have the information. Probably this has helped you. In my case, I think that I'm struggling a lot in the emotional support of my students and of myself.
Okay, so engagement with students appears to be one of the main concerns.
It's a great challenge.
Yeah.
But I think that this is a combination of factors. I think that also we should teach our students and train our students soft skills in order to be able to communicate, to be engaged, to have a curiosity, to adapt to the new environment of the online teaching. I think that this is it's not only how it's possible to be engaged with them just using the technology and some tools, but also we should train our soft skills as a teachers and also to train our students soft skills in order to communicate better with us and be engaged. So it's not an easy task, I will say. So let's move to the next one. Which webinar did you follow? This is the last one. So let's see. We have a balance. Seems that we have a balance. This is good. We have our fan club as well.
Looks like a lot of people has repeat. That's very good.
Let's give more time for this. You can pick up all the options if you have attended all of them.
Yeah, you can use 1, 2, or the 3 options depending on your attendance.
This is very interesting. Also, all the webinars, the first 2 webinars are available through the website. So if you would like to watch them again, for the people that they have just joined us for this last webinar, you can go to the website and you can find the links of the first 2 of them. So you can click over there and you can follow and you can keep the videos. You can download the videos and keep it for your use. And also all the presentations, they will be shared with you. Please send me an email if any of you would like to have this certificate. Please email me. I will email back the certificate. I will send you credentials in order to share with you using our Moodle platform the presentations of the speakers. But there is a condition for this. Please go and do the evaluation. This is something that is the only thing that we are requesting from you. So I think with this, I will stop sharing my screen. So, Ricardo, I will give you the floor now to introduce our next speaker from La Laguna. So I will remove myself from the.
Let me remove
screen.
also the Menti invitation. It's hard now. Okay, it is my big pleasure to present you to our next lecturer, Dr. Andres Gonzalez Novoa. He's a professor from the Department of History of Education from the University of La Laguna, and he will talk us today about pedagogical narrative strategies for the creation of audiovisual academic materials. So, Andres, very welcome to our webinar, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Costas and Ricardo, for inviting me to participate in this online adventure. Thank you, the college, for sharing such interesting insights. Thank you to the people who listen to me on the other side of the screen. I want to ask Shakespeare forgiveness for abusing his language. Let's go. Technology connects us, but it can also distance us. It is an aid, but not a substitute. I want to make that clear. And this is a real challenge. The challenge is that in a cyberspace without maps, we neither have time when on the internet everything is present in real time. Learning cannot be accelerated. We discover the world in its intimacy by working. We explore cultures by reading. We meet people by listening. The world must be shut down, and for that, pedagogy has a lot to tell us. How do you bring all the goodness of education without real meetings of teachers and students? I think all of us here today connected are trying to answer that question. I don't have the answer, not all of it. Before I begin, I would like to remember reflection behind Rousseau's educational work, wasting time in order to gain it. My name is Andres Gonzalez Novoa, and I'm going to offer you briefly all pedagogical approaches that are interesting to rethink the changes that are coming. Histories have traveled from mouth to ear through millennia like information on the internet. Educational innovation does not consist of inventing and power, but rather, in the face of new unrepeatable realities, selecting from the strategies of the past the ones that best adapt. We think in words. Education is a communicative process. Let us see how we can integrate the skills of narration to educate. That is, to move students to generate in them a growing and progressive autonomous educational demand. It seems that the human being is the only one who is able to read in the book of the dreams and extract from its pages ideas that don't exist in the real world. The language of animals is realistic. Ours is symbolic. We are animals of fiction, and those fictions have told us all the inventions. We don't just describe the world, we transform it, we imagine it. That's why we created a school. Looking at the image, with a little imagination, we discover a teacher using the PowerPoint of the cave. How curious. Despite the distance in time, we are able to recognize many elements that are repeated in today's education. In what way can we take orality and what for in online education? Stories are home to the essential narrative structure that allows us to order ideas and express them clearly. When we speak, we not only teach, we also learn. When we express ourselves out loud, we learn twice as much. The inner thinking reorganizes and orders the concepts, and the outer listening rethinks them. The virtue of synthesis forces us to choose what is important. Less is more. Being listened to by others motivates our effort to be pedagogical in expressing our thoughts and helps us to overcome the fear of exposing ourselves to others. Translating academic knowledge into narrative language implies using our own words. Translating complexity into simplicity is the most difficult thing in the world, the highest degree of learning. When we teach our grandmother how to use a computer, is when we really learn how it works. I'm going to return to that prehistoric cave and to that lesson accompanied by rock painting that today is our slide presentation. Let's go step by step. The first thing, what I usually do is to record short educational pills in which I introduce the students to the lesson. I don't give them everything for reasons I will explain later. In between concepts, I introduce questions that I don't answer, that I leave in the air, just like that. I set up a distribution list of audiovisual resources so that the students, based on their interest, can browse. Here you can find everything, from interview with experts to scenes from films, video clips, songs, poems, everything. Do you see the complex scheme I show you? It is the result of the analysis of more than 1,000 stories by Vladimir Prop's Morphology of Storytelling that I synthesized in this way. Well, I explain this scheme to the students. What for? Well, to tell stories, it's a narrative map. I offer students a series of concepts or characters depending on the subject and propose that they write a short story. That story will be turned into a 3-minute educational pill. Why 3 minutes? Because for a non-specialist speaker, it is the right time to keep the attention of the person who is not with you, who is beyond the screen. The story will be supported by pictures, not words. This seems important to me. I urge you to draw, to graphically represent what you find difficult to say with words. In this way, you learn to complement both codes. Finally, we enjoy their creations I ask them questions about their video stories, about the choice of image or graphics, what relation they find with the contents of the lesson, what application they find in their daily life. In summary, we talk. To conclude, I order their stories, giving them the meaning they have within the lesson, and I make a final conclusive video. The 1001 Night is a great compilation of stories that, like a tapestry, are intermingling to seduce the listener or the reader. What today, in TV series, we call cliffhanger. The educational power behind the Arabic narrative structure consists of the following: not telling everything. If we manage to arouse interest, curiosity, the student impatient will look for answer by himself. In distance education, and with the internet as a great library, we can train one of the three competences that both UNESCO and the European higher education area indicate as fundamental for the 21st century: the search for and selection of quality information. The mystery or the unveil are the motor of attention. Given the difficulty of the emphasizing with the students at a distance from the screens, incomplete narrative strategies are required. Think about it for a moment. It is better to live with a desire for more than with saturation. A person who is satisfied will not want to repeat. You have to provoke interest from complete dissatisfaction. How to apply the narrative foundation of the 1001 Nights to online education. Let's start the topic we are going to teach from its foundations. As an introduction, basically, and applying the classic narrative structure, only the approach. At this point, we offer students the opportunity to choose what aspect of what is shown is of interest to them. Each student has access to the contents they have chosen, which are different, although within the same subject, from their classmates. In their solitary search, they face the challenge that we consider necessary. We feel that it was a puzzle. Each student has been given a couple of pies. Now it is time to compose something bigger with them, starting, as in 1001 Nights, from an incomplete story to build a panoramic view. To do this, they will surely find different paths. We propose a peer-to-peer activity by which each student, in less than 3 minutes, records an educational piece answering a question, the same one for all the students, a question that guides or gives meaning to all the pieces. Finally, in an online conference, we propose that the students narrate in an orderly manner what they have discovered individually. Starting from the approach we offer them, they will develop the note and the outcome. We have already seen how to introduce the strategies of orality as communicative enhancers for interactivity education. And now we must outline what elements we must take into account to translate these principles into the design of educational audiovisual products. Showing is more powerful than telling. An expository educational piece should not exceed 5 minutes. If we can simulate what we teach, replacing verbs with actions or lesson gain in dynamism and clarity. Conversely, if we ask students to make pills showing their abilities in a specific situation, we can, by means of rubrics, observe whether they have acquired the competence they are learning or not. Cinema can be the soul of the new school. If you are interested, read a film script. You will see that it tells a story without having to stop to explain everything. Personally, before preparing an educational pill, I work with a storyboard, drawing each scene under it, the contents to which it refers. I work with different planes and approach to reactivate the student's attention. What we usually do is go back to the two-dimensional theater with a fixed mid-stage shot and use talking non-stop. Why do students love the cinema and hate our classes? I leave it at that. In order to talk about a chair, I forget about the chair. Principle of lateral thinking. Audiovisual language is allergic to description. Imagine that I want to talk to my students about Dickens. I can, as we usually do, make inventory of his work, his themes, his character, the analysis of his narrative, his literary style, and blah, 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 blah. Or I can write a story that will encourage them to read his work and get to know his first hand. I could tell him, for example, what 18th century London was like. The fog, the pollution, the 15-hour working day in the factories, the brutal mortality due to working conditions, and the number of orphans surviving in the streets to the cold and hunger. And I situate, as cinema does, all this reality in a specific plot. The steamboat from Manchester arrives on the Thames and docks. A young man carrying a package comes down, and once again, thousands of orphans who have survived to the cold night and the hunger surrounds him. He opens the package and pulls out a easel which he starts to read aloud. He starts to walk, and the orphans listen to the story, and every time he finishes a paragraph, they repeat it word by word to those who are further away. The story travels through the alleys until it reaches the last word on the last page. He stops in front of the bookstore, says goodbye, and leaves this scene. What do we have left? His history that continued to travel the street from mouth to ear and from ear to mouth. Those children are no less hungry or less cold, but now, having heard Oliver Twist's chapter 53, at least they have hope. To end up, this is a road trip. Just as I make educational pills with the rules of cinema, the students can do it. It is true that they are not great readers. However, they are great communicators, and they handle the tools of filming and editing better than we do. Challenge them, and you will discover all the talent they have. And not only will they study many more things than we think, but they will also produce, with their particular eye, and elaborate knowledge from which we can also learn. There's a lot of stuff left in the inkwell or on the screen. I await any question or doubts you may have. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much, Andres, for your very interesting lecture. While we receive some potential questions, I would like to ask you how do you prepare your lessons with all these tools of cinema or narrative? I mean, does it differ a lot when you do it online than when you do it in class?
Yes, it's a very good question. I say before, I prepare a storyboard, I draw the most important things, and I try to tell the story like a storytelling, like a cinema, with mystery, with flashback, with flash forward, trying to capture the attention of the students. And when I have the storyboard with the speeches, I imagine the different planes I need. I film the different planes like a cinema, and I editing in a normal
Tool,
application.
on a normal software. Okay. Very nice. And do your students start to work with you in the same way? Because I think, as you said before, they control this audiovisual language probably better than most teachers. But so they communicate with you in this way as well, no?
It's very easy to know. Our students see more cinema and unconscious know more strategies of narration that we think. Okay. If you defeat the sci-fi to the students or propose to make a films, you will surprise. I have many lists of distribution of the product of the students, like a Hollywood. It's incredible with FX, with traveling, with a different plane, because they manage the cinematic language better than us.
And even in a natural way, not thinking I'm going to use this technique probably. No? Okay, so we have several questions. Let's start for if you use any best tool for storytelling.
It's a very good question. Your imagination, your own words, all the people telling stories in the bar, before the COVID, in the parks, in the school, in the normal life. When we speak, when our words, is incredible because I put example. In your mind, you don't have the entire speech. It's a crazy thing. You have in your memory a storyboard. If you ask a little boy, a little girl, tell me the day, she remember with own words by exchange, one to one. If you prepare this story with action and not with words, it's for you very easy. Narrate with your own words. It's more fluid, more emotional, and more potent.
Mm-hmm. Okay, another question here. Hi, Andres. Thanks for your presentation. A really new approach to online teaching. which subjects or courses do you consider more appropriate to be taught with this narrative style?
Okay. Thank you, Monse. Monse is my teacher, my friend, and my college. It's a great professional and person. Monse, if you have a good level of English, I recommend the masterclass of Neil Gaiman. It's incredible. The writer, the creator gave many tips to organize and to imagine how to tell a story, different views, different words, different strategies. And if you need a personal advice, you can call me or write me, and I put at your disposition.
Thank you very much. So I think we can go forward to the next lecturer, going on time. So now I will thank you very much, Andres.
Thank you, Andres. I
Thank
really enjoyed. I really
for
enjoyed.
your lecture. We're going to follow now with well, my colleague Kostas Petridis will present the next lecturer. Thank you.
We can present him together. It's a great honor that we have with us a colleague from Technion. His name is Danny. I hope that I will pronounce correct your surname, Levin. And I will let him to introduce himself to you, and then I will share my screen in order to present his presentation, and then we will have plenty of time in order to discuss with him your questions. So, Danny, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Kostas, and thank you very much for the wonderful invitation. I have really enjoyed these 3 days. It's been absolutely fabulous. Like every one of us, COVID-19 has forced me to bring all my teaching online. But unlike many of my colleagues in my university, where, by the way, I've been teaching since 79, if you count it from my graduate school days, I have been developing my teaching approach over the years. The last 5 years, I've been using flipping. So the COVID-19 didn't catch me totally unprepared, because all my lectures are already asynchronous online. Let me describe to you what this flipping thing is all about, and we'll have a chat afterwards. So, Kostas, please run the movie. Hi there. My name is Danny Levine, and I'm a professor at the Faculty of Chemical Engineering at the Technion. I will talk today about an alternative approach to lecturing, the flipped classroom, in which online lecturing delivers the bulk of course materials, leaving class time free for students to come to grips with their own learning by interactions with their teacher and with each other. We have a problem. Student attendance of lectures is dropping, and worse, so is the degree to which students engage when they do attend. An alternative take on classroom activity is this one. What do we see here? A discussion between a young person, perhaps a little younger than the students that we're used to, and his teacher. What is the attitude of our student? Looks interested, right? See how his body language projects that. Well, that's what we're looking for in our students: anticipation, interest, and involvement, to keep them attentive and participating in their own learning process. We are teachers, but is it really true that it's enough to look to our teaching? Surely the important thing is that our students learn. How can we conclude whether or not they are learning? Well, certainly not just by lecturing to them. We need to engage them in discussion to determine what they know and lead them in experimentation to improve on their knowledge and capabilities. Clearly, such activities need time. So here's the point. If we invest all of our contact time with our students in lecturing, we will not have time to do anything else. Worse still, we know that lecturing is a very inefficient way of teaching, principally because, for the most part, it means that our students mostly listen rather than actively participate. The way to improve how much students learn is to maximize their activity during our contact time with them. So here is a class-tested flipping classroom paradigm. It starts with an online lecture where students view clips and test their acquired knowledge at home at their own pace, which counts as their homework. They prepare all this in advance of the week's activity, which means that the teacher can also assess their competence in advance by monitoring their activity and quiz performances. I have found that things that help at this stage are to ensure that the online activities that accompany the video segments are one of the following. Either regular quizzes, which could be multiple choice, matching, or numerical type questions, what I call your turn sandwich videos. That is, one presents a problem or design problem definition in one video clip and asks the students to try and solve it on their own, and then present a possible solution for them to compare with in the subsequent video clip. In advanced design courses, it's most likely that more than one possible solution can exist. An in-class discussion of possible alternatives is a powerful way to accelerate real learning. Or one asks students to prepare for an in-class brainstorming by beginning study and analysis of a given process situation at home in advance. All of these activities mean that students have the opportunity to really prepare for a successful class meeting, which comes next. The next step is to bring them to a class meeting, which substitutes in-class activities for what used to be regular lectures. What we do now is first wrap up and close any issues that were observed to be problematic from observation of the students' home activities in the previous days. But most of the class time is invested in activities that I have found to be beneficial. Running quizzes to improve comprehension, some of them revisiting home quizzes, but some designed to expand on their knowledge or to generate class discussion. Learning results from first getting things wrong, understanding why, and then getting things right is how one learns. The most important component of my class meetings are open-ended problem solving and the resulting discussions about strategic and tactical advantages that are presented in the process. These are all examples of useful activities for class meetings. Had this precious contact time been used mostly for lecturing, it would have left very little time for them, and indeed, students learn a lot more this way. This leaves the last stage, the active tutorial, where students spend most of their time getting to grips with problem sets on their own or in teams assisted by course staff. And this means that at every step of the week's activities, students have optimized their time investment in the course. At home, they build basic knowledge of the course material, whereas in contact time with staff, they have honed this knowledge to higher levels. These improvements are difficult to achieve in a regular class setting simply because there is insufficient time to achieve it. Okay, let me discuss now outcomes. And so here, let me show you first a typical final grade distribution for my process design course before I introduce flipping and active tutorials. And what we see here, we see a bimodal distribution of grades. Obviously, some students did get the material, but a very large number had mediocre or substandard performance. And of course, these are the final grades. There's no fix to this problem now. In contrast, when moving to flipped classroom and active tutorial, a typical distribution is normally, as you see here. Most of the students clearly got the material in a very acceptable fashion. The variance of the course grade has been reduced. There is, of course, a tail of students who didn't make it, but the vast majority of students not only succeeded in passing the course, they did very well in the course. And this is actually what we're trying to achieve. And this is actually achievable using this approach. Now, how do we actually achieve flipped classes? What's involved in actually doing the transformation? So let me give you a brief step-by-step guide. This is a 7-step guide to flipped classroom. Step number 1, you need to have a game plan. I recommend that you begin by testing flipping on just one lecture, not an entire course, one lecture. You pick the lecture that you never manage to cover fully in a regular class. You make sure you plan for a class meeting and active tutorial. That's part of the deal. And you should be optimistic, but also realistic about expectations. There will be a percentage of students who don't like this approach, who don't like being forced to actually learn. The vast majority of students may be more enthusiastic about this than even you are. But be realistic and be prepared to make several iterations on this effort. Second, you should prepare online lessons. You should state learning objectives up front in each lecture and close with them in a summary. And this you should be doing anyway, but this is definitely necessary for an online lecture. You should divide your lecture into segments that can be delivered in 5 to 15 minutes, short video segments. You should ensure the content is complete. That means you leave no gaps because there is no correction on the blackboard. These lectures need to be self-sustaining when students review them. You should write and use scripts, and you should practice delivery several times before recording the segments. Let me give you a couple of words about recording equipment. To make effective recordings, you'll need the following equipment. I recommend that you use your laptop as a recording studio with Camtasia or some similar package installed and configured to run with PowerPoint. This is actually how I made this clip, of course. Alternatively, you could, of course, use a centralized facility to record your lectures, but you should accept much longer development times if you go that route. I would recommend that you use a sound capture device connected to a dynamic microphone for voice. Alternatively, you could just use the integrated microphone on your laptop, but you should be prepared for complaints from your students. Your poor sound quality, and actually sound is actually more important than video. And here, just to illustrate the point, is my own video studio. What you see on my desk are here's the dynamic microphone with a pop filter connected to an analog to digital recording device that converts the analog signal to digital input to the computer inserted via the USB cable. Here is my recording studio, my own laptop on which I have Camtasia installed, and this allows me to actually generate the videos like the one I've done for this webinar. And finally, for video recording, I recommend that you have an illumination on your desk so your face is illuminated. Actually, the video camera on the general laptop is probably good enough so long as you are providing it with sufficient illumination. That's actually key. All right. Step 3 is to prepare effective quiz questions. Every video segment should be followed by a quiz question or a question cluster or an activity that tests the students' understanding of what they have just learned. You should prepare explanations for all of the answers, the correct ones as well as the incorrect ones, actually even more important, the incorrect ones, to trigger students in their learning process. You should allow students to retry every question if they get it wrong. This is not a test, remember, it's part of their learning process. Step 4, assembly of lessons and their testing. You should upload your questions and videos and generate what I recommend, a Moodle lesson or similar, depends on your admin software that's running your courses. You should test the flow and system response for yourself, but more importantly, have your assistant perform an independent check. He or she didn't prepare the lesson and will therefore provide a more reliable test for what you've done. Just to give you an idea of how flexible Moodle lessons can be, let me show you a typical setup. So one possibility, of course, is to set up your Moodle lesson just as a straight linear lesson, content followed by questions, one after the other. You could be more sophisticated. For example, in the event of a student getting a question wrong, you can add remedial material, which is projected to the student before asking him to try the question again. Okay, so you can have that feature in. You can decide that you could divide your content into parts, independent parts. So part 1 we just saw, part 2 might be a very similar structure to part 1. Yeah, a couple of questions with the possibility of remedial material just as before. And to enable a student's flexibility in the order of the way they cover this material, you could set up a system with suitable flow control that allows the student to see each section independently. So this is just one possible setup. Moodle is very flexible. You can do whatever you want with this software. Okay. So step 5, plan for useful class meeting. You should prepare additional materials. You should try not to repeat what the students have already learned online. So your lesson can rely on short quiz questions to be used to foster class discussion. Mostly I try and fill the class time with open-ended exam-style questions to be solved with class participation. And you can also give students an opportunity to give presentations of their own in the class meeting. We are not under pressure here. We have time to do that stuff if it's useful. And here are more ideas for use in the class meeting. You could use quizzes to recall previous material. You could solve example problems with student participation, rely on brainstorming. You could discuss issues in case studies with student participation. You can pause during the meeting to quiz students and use their responses to generate class discussion. And of course, encourage questions from students. And you have now time to address the questions because there's no time pressure. The actual basic materials have already been covered by them at home. This is extra stuff. This is the real learning going on now. Step 6, you should always schedule an active tutorial. That means you give sufficient time should be scheduled in their program to actively replace the homework. That means students would then be sitting in appropriate seating arrangements. You should make each set of questions span from easy to difficult level, and you should allow time in class to discuss solution strategies. And of course, I suggest you leave solutions available freely online. Again, this is not a test, this is their learning. Final step, follow up on every component. Was the lesson well organized? Were there any questions that were problematic? Were there any questions that were particularly successful ones? How about the class meeting? How much activity was there in class? How many students attended? Were you happy about the outcomes? Active tutorial, again, how many students attended? How many students completed all tasks? My bottom line in all this is basically that anything that you do that gives you time for your students to get more actively involved in their learning is a good approach. You should each find your own approach. I have found my solution in flipping, and hopefully you will have found this lecture useful. Hi there. My name is Danny Levine, and I'm a professor at the Faculty of Chemical Engineering at the Technion. I will... All right.
Hi. So the floor is yours. Thank you very much, Danny, for the nice presentation. I will start with one of my questions because I was wondering, so fundamentally your model has failed right now because of the COVID-19, because of two essential actions that you have proposed us, like the face-to-face tutorials and the face-to-face meeting with your students. They don't exist because they're locked down. How did you face this?
Really? Haven't you heard of Zoom, Kostas? Haven't you heard of breakout rooms? In fact, having stuff online can even be beneficial. There are things that can be done online that I never thought about offline, that I never thought about face-to-face. Having breakout rooms, being able to break your class down into groups has big advantages, and you go from one to the other. So there are upsides to this, for sure. No, it didn't fail.
Actually, you know, I'm following... I'm using these breakout rooms, and it's very useful, and Fantastic. It's a great idea. But let's move now to the questions from the audience. Do all the students active now without face-to-face contacts? How do you encourage everyone to do pre-face? And this is my question as well, because regarding the breakout rooms, let's continue our conversation. I can check by moving from one room to another. I force them to share a whiteboard. I can listen, you know, their conversations, but I mean, I cannot listen all the voices. I can listen 2-3 voices, and the rest of the people they just listen.
Absolutely, this is really something that I'm actually struggling with because we can't force our students to turn their cameras on even. So most of the students, I'm seeing a box with a name. I don't know whether they're active or not. But the ones who choose to work can learn a lot this way because they actually do stuff with their prof watching over their shoulder and prodding. You know, if I find, for example, a class totally not moving, I prod them. I nudge them as a group. It's very difficult to do this without having them in the class. I'll tell you, if I had a choice, I'd rather be in the classroom. But we don't have a choice right now. So we have to do the best that we can. I'm saying the following, guys and girls. This COVID-19 thing, it's going to be over. I think the issue is, what are we going to do the day after? Are we going to go back to lecturing, or are we going to go back using the goodies that we've picked up along the way to make our teaching better, to give more time for students to get actively involved? Now, I'm a big proponent of this active bit, that the students should be active. So I will go back to what I was doing before, and probably I'll bring some ideas that I've gathered this time around. We should all be picking up new things as we're going along, right? There's nothing new.
I think that we are going to go back to the normality when we will go, and we will pick up, and we will keep using the goodies, the good things that we have get because of the COVID-19. But when we will come back, I just follow very carefully your presentation. How much time do you need in order to prepare just one lecture?
First time? You know, my first video clip was a 5-minute clip, which took me 2 days. But I was learning Camtasia, okay? It was a 20-track movie. I made a production. By the way, the previous speaker, my heart went out to him because I made a movie, right? First time around. But I learned to use Camtasia to the point where I don't have a problem with Camtasia after this. I can do anything with this tool. It's getting easier and easier. Now, my further difficulty is because I'm teaching in Israel, I have to teach in Hebrew. I was also teaching Chinese students. So I've multiplied my courses. I now have 9 flip courses ready because I have 3 in English and 3 in Hebrew. The English is much easier for me. It's my natural language. By the way, not my native tongue, but my natural language. Hebrew, I picked up in the last 40 years only. So, it can take time, but with practice, you get better at this.
Yes, this is true. And I have to say that Camtasia is a straightforward software to learn. Yeah. It's very easy to use. It's not so expensive because it's like $150 per permission, I say, forever. It's not just, per year.
That's right. Yep.
So let's move to the other question from, I think, from a colleague from Africa. I'm a chemical engineering at Jimma University in Ethiopia. I'm right. How is it possible to prepare different process design, transport phenomena course for students?
Not sure I understand the question. Do you mean process design or transport phenomena? Which? They're two different.
I will suggest to go on with your... Yes.
Okay. I have taught in my history numerical methods, control, design, and simulation. I have 1 course for each. I have actually two process design courses. So trust me, Fekadu, I can guarantee you can teach any chemical engineering subject with this approach. Anyone. Okay? It just needs dedication from the point of view of the teacher, persistence, and cooperation from your students. But if you make things interesting, they will cooperate. Remember, your students, they came to your university to learn. They want to learn. They're thirsty to learn. Just present material in an interesting way, get them excited, and they will run ahead of you. You won't have to drag them. They will pull you. That's what will happen. But you do this by getting them active. The most important thing is that they should, when they're with you, they should be active. They shouldn't be listening to you. They should be doing. They shouldn't be listening. And that's how they learn. And you're there to help them.
I would like to be, how can I say? I would like to ask you something. You are coming from Technion, the best students in Israel, probably. So,
yeah,
I mean, this is not the situation in all over the place. I mean, probably your students are very motivated and very thirsty to learn. I think that all the students are very thirsty to learn. But, for you, probably the scenario is easier. But can you give us a tips? How can we increase and enhance the motivation and the curiosity of our students along teaching? It's like to ask a lot of questions. It's just like to provide them some problems and ask them to solve. What are the tips that you can offer to all of us that we are not coming, let's say, from a high elite university?
No, you take every subject that you teach, right? You are very clear about what your objectives are. You make your statement up front. Learning objectives are really important. What are you going to know to do at the end of this class? That is really so simple. Get them excited about something that matters to them. Bring a motivation problem at the beginning of the class. Sometimes it can be a motivation problem that looks impossible with the knowledge that they begin. But you guarantee that at the end, they will know how to solve this problem.
And the question now is like, it should be something theoretical or something practical?
No, but it depends on the subject. I mean, if you're teaching mathematics, it's going to be theoretical. But if you're teaching engineering, come on, it's physics, right? It's practical. Okay. Teach them something practical.
Yes.
I have it easy because most of my courses involve designing stuff. Okay, so we're going to design stuff together. This is cool.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you so much. For a last thing I would like to emphasize, to the listeners is like how important is the equipment to have in order to make nice recordings. In private, they talked about how important is the microphone, for example. Can you give us
This is your tool, right? This is what you need because, in fact, I could actually turn my camera off, right? My face doesn't have to be there, but I have to motivate them with my voice, and it has to be very, very clear. So invest in a good microphone. I have an analog to digital device that converts the signal into a digital signal that is entered into the computer, and Camtasia allows me to edit and make whatever I want. It's very easy to use. I can combine videos. Hey, there's something that's known as free what is it? What's the term used? Basically, inside a university, you can freely use and copy from the entire world, so long as it stays inside university. So my original flipped course, the first one, incorporated Beatles, Monty Python. Behind this screen is my Muppet, Joe McTavish. You may recall in the first video, in the first webinar, I appeared in his name because I didn't have time to change he has his own Gmail account. Students submit projects to him. He grades the projects, not me. So you can be really funny. You can be amusing. You can add stuff that makes a difference, and it keeps them looped. Yeah, they have to listen to me I'm teaching 2 flip courses to the same students, same semester. So they're listening to Danny 6 hours a week, Gewalt. So, you have to think how they're going to be in the loop for this amount of time. So make the clips short with questions in between to keep them awake. There's a question here.
Mm-hmm. There's a nice model also for the rest of the colleagues to follow, like EDX, Coursera courses. The way that they have constructed is exactly what you are describing. Short videos with very fundamental questions at the end of each one of these short sessions. So I think that you can read the next question from a colleague.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. It is so important that the first meeting with your class, you invest in explaining to the students what's coming. Look, the first flip course that students at the Technion in my faculty learn are with me. They've never had a course like this before. They never had a crazy prof like this before. That's another story. It's really important to put them in the picture. They have to understand what is expected of this new approach to learning, how responsible they have to be to make sure they learn. So that's really, really important. First lecture is Flipping 101, not my subject at all.
So, and the last one, thank you for your patience, Daniel, comes from Argentina. I'm having problems with electronic subjects, electronic laboratories. I'm having trouble to find the right path. Do you have some piece of advice?
I have no experience at all with teaching labs at all, I'm sorry, but if all the theoretical stuff, what I would say is the following. One thing you might want to consider is to put all the instructions online and have that available to students before they come to the lab. That way, they are prepared better for what's going to happen, and they can do this at their own pace. This will be very helpful. What you do in the lab, I'm not really sure I can help. And by the way, Diego, soy chileno. I was born in Chile. Yeah, I was born in Chile, so I speak Spanish too. Yeah.
Wow, nice information to know. So, Danny, thank you very much.
Thank you.
By the end, I would like to say to you that mathematics, they have a lot of practical exams, and actually mathematics is the language of the reality. Physics is a science, but the reality to describe this is mathematics, and I totally believe that the mathematics, they have so many real life applications. So I suggest you to visit our item project, and over there you will find a lot of proposals regarding how mathematics are linked with the real life problems. So thank you very much, Danny. Let's move now to the last one. The floor is to Ricardo. It comes from Portugal. It's my favorite Portuguese because always I remind him
what we have done then in 2004. So the floor is yours, Ricardo, to introduce Nuno. Bye, Nuno. I'm looking forward to...
Hi, Costas. Hi, Ricardo.
Hi, Nuno. Okay, so our last lecturer today will be our colleague Nuno Escudeiro, Dr. Nuno Escudeiro from the Institute of Engineering, from the Institute of Polytechnics da Porto. Also, he's coordinator of Athena, a consortium of universities, and his lecture will be today around experiences using blended mobility. Nuno, very welcome, and the floor is yours for this last lecture.
Thank you very much, Ricardo and Costas, for organizing these webinars. I am really happy with these 3 days. But being the last presenter is being terrifying for me now, because after all these great presentations, I hope I can cope with it. Let's see how it goes. Okay, so I would like to share with you the experiences that we are doing with blended mobility. In fact, I hope that more than talking to you about this experience, I hope that I can convince you of the potential of blended mobility paradigms for teaching. We are in fact running a blended mobility course for 11 years now. And the results are being really incredible from our point of view, from the students' point of view, and also from the point of view of the companies that are working on this with us now. I would like to have a first understanding of what does blended mobility means for you. So I'm going to ask you for your cooperation and to give one word, or you can input as many words as you like. So please go to menti.com. I believe that after this webinar, we will all be experts in Menti. Go to menti.com, input this code 619955, and just let us know in one word, what does blended mobility means to you? What is the word that pops up in your mind when you talk about blended mobility? I'm going to leave this open, so while I am presenting, you can go to Menti and input your words for this. And then we'll be back here at the end of the session. Maybe we can start with a very light definition of blended mobility. So blended mobility refers to the use of a blend of mobility approaches that are applied at a certain course or at a certain activity for some reason, because you want to improve the learning achievements of your students, or for some other reason. You can have several approaches or combine
Ricardo,
several approaches.
no, I'm sorry. Please
Yeah.
type the code. Type the code, because the people, they would like to know to learn the code of the menti.com.
All right. Okay. So 619955. I hope that Ricardo can put this on the stream. Okay. So let me now share with you some concepts around blended mobility.
Can you repeat the code, Nuno, just for a second?
Sure. Yeah. Here. 619955.
Okay.
Thank you. So going back to blended mobility, we can see this blend of approaches, blending of mobility approaches from several points of view. We can have a look at blended mobility as a blend of approaches that depend on the channel or on the way that you expose the resources to the students. This usually combines online resources with online sessions and face-to-face sessions. So this is, I believe, the oldest type of blended mobility, or at least the most common, where we can find the e-learning courses, classes that use remote labs, virtual labs, online simulations, these type of things. We can go to the other extreme of the range of blended mobility approaches and talk to maybe the most recent one, which blends mobilities depending on the purpose. So this is a type of blended mobility that blends mobility for studies with mobility for training. This is coming from the Erasmus program.
Bruno, just 1 second, because we
Yeah.
are not seeing your presentation. I'm sorry for interrupting you.
Oh, you cannot see my screen?
No, we are seeing your video, but not your presentation. Can you share your screen?
Oh, okay. All right, so I see now. Okay. So if you give me. Okay, so now I understand all that we have been discussing. Okay, so here is the code 619955.
That's it. Okay, good. You can go.
So, all right, I can go back here to tell you about what I was just mentioning. So we have the several types of blended mobility depending on what is the facet or the characteristic that makes this blend. I was talking on probably the most traditional one, the one that combines online resources with and online sessions with face-to-face sessions, where we have the traditional e-learning courses and sessions that involve remote or virtual labs. And on the other extreme, we have blended mobility combining mobility for studies with mobility for training. This is probably the most recent type of blended mobility that arose in the arena of the Erasmus mobilities. As you know, Erasmus mobilities is students can go for an additional training mobility in the first year after concluding their course. And as there are many students that are combining the last semester of studies with this training mobility, with this new type of blended mobility. But some here in the middle is the main topic I would like to discuss with you, which is blended mobility that is combining, it's based on mobility type, and this is combining virtual mobility with physical mobility. Physical mobility, it's crucial for humans, for our students. I don't think it's feasible to imagine that we can teach using exclusively online equipment, online materials. We need physical mobility, because physical mobility and the physical contact between humans is what makes us create the sense of trust and responsibility, and to make us get the sense of commitment. And you have probably already experienced it, at least I experienced this, when you are answering an email that comes from someone that you have never met face to face. It's different from answering for an email from someone that you know. In fact, the commitment, and it's different in these cases. So these are very important positive aspects of physical mobility. But there are also negative aspects of physical mobility, the cost, of course, and the few barriers to mobility that our students might face that are coming from many different reasons, inclusively from what we are experiencing now, public health crisis like this COVID-19 is putting us face with. But there are many other barriers to mobility that are preventing many students to take the benefits of going on international mobility. The best aspects of combining virtual mobility with physical mobility is that we can get the benefits without having to be constrained by these barriers. So one of the main good aspects, positive aspects of this combination is that this in fact overcomes the barriers to physical mobility. But there are more. It's an eco-friendly approach, and I will come to this back to this a little later in my presentation. But most of all, it's a real way to promote equity and to promote international contacts despite the barriers that the students might face. If you take a look at these barriers, you can see that most of these barriers are faced mainly by minorities, either by students that come from social backgrounds that are disadvantaged, or students that have some disabilities, some handicaps, from students that come from families that have low income that is not enough to support the mobility of the students. And all these students are facing these barriers, and all these students are not having the possibility to benefit from the added value of this international mobility. And it is in this area of blended mobility, so in this combination between virtual and physical mobility, that we have developed this blended AIM course. The blended AIM course was motivated by the fact that, and I believe, if not all of us, most of us will agree that in project activities are a great way to promote students' employability, and that international exposure, mainly at the age that our students are doing this, around the 20, 21, 22 years of age, or even later, because in our course we even have students with 35 and more years doing the course. But at any age, but mainly around the 20s, this international exposure, it's very beneficial to promote students as individuals and as professionals. The issue is all these barriers that we have been already talking about. Imagine that you have a student that is a student worker. He has his job and he goes to classes in the evening. If these students want to experience international mobility during studies, he is constrained. He cannot do it. He cannot even think about it, because to do this, he will lose his job. One thing that is preventing many of our students at my institution to go on an Erasmus mobility at the last semester is the fact that they do not want to lose an opportunity to get a job if they are in the country. They know that if they stay here, they will have job interviews that they can go, and they will probably get a job before concluding their degree. And the students don't want to lose this opportunity, so these students are not willing to go abroad. The fact is that if they do not do this for any of these reasons, they will not benefit from this international exposure, and this can have impact in their future life. The blended mobility approach that we are, let's say, convinced or that we are developing can overcome all these barriers and still grant the students the benefits of physical mobility. So let me go to the key features of this course that we are running. It's very simple. The concept is really simple. So what we have is we organize teams of students. So our classes are multidisciplinary and international. So we have classes with 20 students, and we have from these 20, 2 students come from each of 10 different countries, and they come from different study fields. They come from IT, from graphical arts, from management, from marketing, and we put these students together working as a team with a common goal, which is to solve a challenge that is posed by a company. The course runs for 1 semester, around 4 months, between February and June, and the students have 2 face-to-face meetings. These are short meetings, 1 week each meeting. This is the physical part of this blend. And the rest of the semester, the students are doing at their home institution, working online, using tools to communicate and to develop their share. So at the first meeting, at the kickoff meeting, the students are together for a week. They get to know each other. They get to know the company that is offering a challenge, and they have during all the week the possibility to discuss with the company what are the specifications of the challenge and to propose a solution to develop this challenge for the company. The students during this meeting also have to organize themselves in the way that they are going to work during the semester. They have to agree on the meetings they will do, on the way they will organize their work. And remember that these are students from different study fields. They are also usually facing situations that they have not faced before, as having to cooperate, having IT students having to cooperate with creative students from digital arts. And this also poses some challenges that are very good to promote the soft skills of our students. Then they work at home during their assignments and always cooperating with the team. And in the end, we do another meeting for 1 more week where the students finalize their presentation and they present the solution they have developed to the company. They get evaluated by the students, they get their mark. Usually these students develop very strong bonds among themselves, and they create already a very good networking for all the rest of their lives. So, and this is the basics of the course. The basic concept of the course is this. Compared to physical mobility, we allow the students, and this approach allows the students to benefit from international contact during the studies, despite these barriers to physical mobility. So it is from this point of view that this is really promoting equity. Any student can do this despite these common barriers. It also develops ICT competencies because the students have to use all these online tools to communicate, to work all together on the same project, but being at a distance. And it's also interesting to know that this involves less distance travels than traditional mobility. We did a survey with approximately 800 respondents, and we can realize, so our students do 2 travels during the course. They do 1 travel for the first meeting and 1 more travel for the final meeting. But even we have compared these, we have asked students who had already gone on an Erasmus mobility, and we asked them during your mobility, how many times do you come back home? And there is a gain for our approach of approximately 0.7 flights less in our case compared to regular mobility approaches. Okay, so let me go now, before any more details, to blended mobility again, to Mentimeter again, and I'm going to ask you now to answer the second and the last question that you will have to answer. In fact, the question is the same. What is blended mobility for you in 1 word? If your vision of blended mobility has somehow changed after what we have been discussing. And I'm going to leave this open, and we will get back here at the end of the session, so in 2 or 3 minutes. Okay, what are our assets to develop this? Well, mainly the team that is working with us. This year, we are running this course for the 11th year. This year, we have these 11 universities working with us. In fact, the concept has already gone beyond European borders, which is also a very interesting and a very appealing result, because we want to promote cultural awareness in our students. So it's very important that they can also cooperate during this course with students from outside Europe. And we have 1 big partner, which is IMEC. IMEC is a very big research company, and IMEC ISART is their incubator, and they are cooperating with us for the last 3 years with very good results. But the team is does not end here. This is the dynamic team, depending on the availability of the partners in each year. So we have 9 more universities that have already cooperated with us and come and go. So they cooperate 1 year, they cannot cooperate the next year, and that's the way we have been working on this. And we have also a set of companies that have already benefited from this approach. Because the truth is, for a company, this is very appealing, because the company can have a group of 10 students working 4 months to develop a proof of concept. And this involves the students from different study fields, those that are required to solve a given challenge. And they have all the support and all the support from the students. We have the tools. We have, in fact, a blended, let me show you. Okay, sorry. We have the platform for the course, where you can find toolkit for the students. So the students can come here and download the toolkit. You have the toolkit in several languages. So this is the toolkit. So this is mainly a document that tells the students what they need to know. This prepares the students from several points of view: financial point of view, subscription, traveling. And then we have also a checklist that students can follow before they do the project, while they are doing the project, and after concluding the project, what they can do to show the companies and to show the employers how they benefited from this. We have also a platform that we are using to announce the challenges, so that students can apply to these challenges. So this is a platform where companies can submit challenges for the students, and the students can come here and search. Imagine that I am interested in a challenge in Porto. I can see what is available and then see that I am interested in a particular challenge. I can apply to it, and this way the student teams can be created, and we can have the students in the teams that then will develop this challenge for a company. And we have also Athena. Athena is a European university that we are running for. In fact, we are working with Athena for 1 year already, and Athena is somehow also very much linked to this type of approaches for our students. I hope that we will have good news for all in June or July about this. Let me very briefly, I'm over my 20 minutes, but let me very briefly also present you very fast what is the current standing from our point of view regarding this paradigm for teaching, this blended mobility approach. There are strengths. It overcomes the barriers to physical mobility. It promotes green education, and most of all, it promotes equity and inclusion, because this is really not closing the doors to anyone for any reason. There are a few weaknesses because it depends on ICT resources and skills. This is not really a very harsh weakness, but it requires the adaptation of didactic materials if you want to create a new course on this, and it has the costs related to face-to-face meetings. The threats are more linked to the fact that there is not really certification mechanisms to certify the competencies that students have acquired during this process, but we are working on that with our national agency. And the fact that there is a very low offer of these blended mobility courses. They require deep cooperation among the partners that are bringing students into the team, because if you take a good look at this, in fact, what we are doing is that we are running a course that is distributed among these 10 universities, all running in parallel at the same time during a semester. But now the opportunities, regarding the opportunities, we are convinced that the new Erasmus program will be very much interesting for this type of approaches, much more than the previous program and those that came before. We expect that this new Erasmus program will be very will promote virtual mobility and blended mobility approaches. We are also developing competencies that are identified as key competencies for lifelong learning, like languages. Students communicate with many different languages, with many different backgrounds, digital competencies, and cultural awareness. And again, we are also very much aligned with this, with the Sustainable Development Goals, mainly those linked to quality education. Let me just show you very briefly the path that we have followed. So we are running this for 10 years. We started only with IT universities and with a course being offered only by the teachers, not by companies. Then we went into a second stage where we got multidisciplinary, involving students from many study fields. Then we started working with companies in our edition 2013-2014, and from there on we have been always doing projects for companies. And very recently, for the last 3 years, we have identified a very interesting niche for this type of product, which is the niche of the incubators and startups, and we are developing the course now. Our plans for the future are to export this concept to neighborhood countries outside Europe, and to create a big network instead of the 20 universities that we have now, to have 50 or 60 universities where the students can create ad hoc teams depending on their own interest and on the challenges that are available there. So this is our ambition for the near future. Okay, I go now to Mentimeter again to see the results that we have. So this is the view of the group that we have here of what is blended mobility at the end of the session and at the beginning of the session. This was the view that we get. I would like to analyze this, because the idea is to see if there was any difference in these 15 or 20 minutes that we have been discussing this in the approach, and I hope that this was a way to raise awareness to this possibility and to let's say, convince you that this is a good approach. We are we will be very happy to welcome you to join us in developing this, and I rest my case. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nuno, for your magnificent presentation. We are looking now for the questions and answers session. Let's wait a little bit for the attendees to make questions.
Until the attendees will make a question, thank you very much, Nuno, for the nice presentation.
Okay.
And I would like to show you that everything is Greek because your network is named Praxis, no?
Oh, no.
Praxis and Athena are Greek words.
Yeah.
So see the movie,
Yes, yeah.
Greek Fat Wedding.
There's someone asking if do students pay for participation in such courses, or it is free?
Well, the cost for the participation is up to the universities. It depends. Most of the universities are paying the cost for the students, but there are some cases where the students pay on themselves. The companies are also supporting part of the costs, but not the total amount.
A part of the cost. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So someone is asking also.
And also, the Erasmus offices, we support such an action. So the participation of a number of the students that they are among the universities that are already be part. I'm speaking now from behalf of the Hellenic Mediterranean University. We will support such an actions from the office in order the students to participate in such innovative actions.
Mm-hmm. Also, one professor is asking, how can they participate in mobility, professors?
Well, we have for each university brings 2 students and 1 teacher that is supervising the students during the semester. But when we have interest from universities in participating, what we usually say is the easiest way to start is to join a group of university that is already doing this. Okay. So we are very satisfied and very pleased to welcome anyone that wants to join. We have been doing this for the last 3 or 4 years, that we have observers from universities that are willing to join. They come to one of the meetings, they feel they speak with the students, they speak with the company, they see how the meeting goes, and then if they want to join, they join. If they want to create their own consortia, they do it. Okay. But we'll be glad to share all the knowledge we have and all the materials to make this possible.
Okay, a good reflection here. Someone saying that Natalia Binder is saying that blend mobility can also be an effective instrument to prepare for physical mobility, so participants can face less challenges. So they have like an initial stage. What do you think about?
In fact, one of our objectives, one of our goals with this is exactly to promote this intercultural cooperation and to promote all the soft skills that the students need, and to give them all this networking during the course without having to force the students to be 4 months abroad because of all those barriers that we mentioned. So the students can experience these intercultural and cross-curricular aspects while they are working at their home, as long as they have this first meeting. I think the first meeting is critical. Having the students face-to-face, cooperating with each other. They have not met before. We give them one very brief challenge to develop 15 days before the kickoff meeting, but then they meet and they are facing a very urgent. They have to meet the company, they have to meet the challenge, and during a week they have to propose a solution for that challenge and develop a prototype and organize themselves. So this is all very new for the students, and this is really pushing them during that week, but this is critical to create the bonds they need so that they can work together as a team during the next 4 months.
Okay, so also the same attendee is asking if do participants obtain a customized learning objective plan or if it's a fixed program?
The students depends on the university. So usually the students that enroll in this course have an equivalence for some course they have at their own university. In our case, our students that are running this course, they are doing this instead of their project internship course, which is a compulsory course they have to do in the last semester. So the learning outcomes they have are the learning outcomes of this course. But we discussed this among the teachers before creating the teams of the students.
Okay, so I think that would be all for now. So Costas.
So thank you, Nuno. Good
Thank
luck.
you.
Nuno, thank you very much for your lecture. It's been
Thank you.
very
Great.
interesting.
Good luck to Athena.
Thank you. Glad to you too.
And I don't know, I would like to thank all the attendees. I mean, their participation was really a power for us to keep going with these 3 series of webinars. Without participation, nothing will happen. I would like to thank also the presenters, the lecturers, because this is something that does not belong to any project. It's something that happened spontaneously, and we are very thankful for their generosity. I would like to thank also these 30 people, the group of the people that we have started this initiation. The EVM's technical support from our side, the Hellenic Mediterranean University International Relations Office, Nikos Bolanakis for his technical support regarding the website, George Triadafilou for the administration, so many people. I don't know, Ricardo, there are so many, but a big thanks to the attendees. The attendees first. We have a lot of things and a lot of challenges in front of us, but it's an opportunity. Any difficulty is an opportunity. That I would like to say. It's thanks to COVID-19, I think the higher education will become better for the students at least. So
I agree.
Ricardo?
Yes, I would like to thank also to all the people from our supporting organizations, from HMAU, from EVM, from all the universities, and all the participants as lecturers who have in a very generous way collaborate with us, and for your time of the attendees and for your collaboration, for giving us feedback in order to improve session after session. I've read today people asking for the next webinar around this. So first we will.
No, don't say anything.
First we will see how we have to analyze everything. We have a lot of information that's very good to improve if we want to do something in the future. But of course, without the attendees, without your collaboration, this would have been impossible. So thank you, everyone, and we hope to see you soon.
Until the next time.
Until the next time.
Good luck for your teaching actions, and take power from the students, right? And from the colleagues. Now we are a network, so we can share experiences beyond this webinar. So thank you, and have a nice night.
Have a nice day, and let's improve education all together.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for all.